All right, guys, it is Ultra back again with my co-host of the Lay Down podcast. As always, an excited Lenny B ready to predict everything for the 2022
Everything.
season. But we're not only doing this on the Lay Down podcast, we're also doing this on BLV versus Consensus. Mitch couldn't make it, unfortunately. But
Sadly.
we're pre-recording this. Currently, it's the 28th. This may come out at a later date on both platforms as much. So just keep that in mind if anything significant changes here. But we're going to be predicting basically everything ahead of this season. We're almost to the NFL season. I can't wait for it. I think it's so open. There's so many cool storylines coming off of one of the more entertaining seasons as well. And we're going to be predicting every leader in every really relevant stat category. We're going to be predicting the award winners, and we're going to be predicting the season, the regular season standings, and how the playoffs are going to go, eventually going to the Super Bowl and who we have winning the Super Bowl. So, Lenny, how are you feeling before we begin?
Man, there's just so much information that I want to talk about and I'm ready to talk about. Because I don't get a chance to normally just talk about all this stuff. So I'm excited, man. I got all these teams mapped out. Who I think is going to be good, who's going to be good. I mean,
You have record predictions and everything.
yep.
All right. Let's start it off with the stat leaders. Let's start it off with passing yards. And do you want to start or should I?
I think you should go first, and then I'll react to whatever you say.
All right. So my NFL leader for passing yards for 2022 is going to be Justin Herbert. Now,
Okay.
Justin Herbert, I believe, Justin Herbert was second last year. He threw 5,000 yards. He was behind Brady. I don't think Brady's going to have as good of a year this year as he did last year, just because I think Tampa's rotating some of offensive pieces. It'll take some time to build chemistry. And he's, another year older. But I think Justin Herbert is going to have the breakout year this year. He had a breakout year in his rookie year where he established himself as a top 10 quarterback. He had a year last year where he became arguably a top 5 quarterback. But I think statistically this year, the Chargers are still going to throw a lot. They have a great receiving running back. They have a set of receivers who I think are pretty good, and I think even past that are a little underrated. They have a very strong offensive line, and they're a pass-based team. I also think another year with this offensive coordinator is going to help their chemistry. I think they're going to throw more downfield this year than they did last year. And Justin Herbert's just an awesome player that I think is going to have a monster
Yes.
year. So I have the Justin Herbert leading the league in pass yards.
Justin Herbert is a freaking stud, and it feels like he's impressed almost every game that he's played. It's just felt especially considering his draft status, everyone thought he was a bust or a future bust, and then he just comes out the gate and immediately lights it on fire. So I don't disagree. The only thing maybe is their defense gets more stirred up and they run the ball a little more, which I'm not worried about it. Anyway, I got for my passing yards leader, Matthew Stafford.
Okay.
I think that the Rams last year in the beginning, they were a little bit they weren't full sure of themselves. They were a little bit just not there yet. You saw it throughout the year. They kept getting better. And then as soon as Stafford got into the playoffs, he was unstoppable almost. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is just the difference that they've had in personnel on offense. You lose Andrew Whitworth, Andrew Norwell, you lose OBJ, Robert Woods. But I'd say that they did a good enough job at replacing those players to really have Stafford just have an insane year this year. And all Allen Robinson has to do is be a meaningful contributor. And Tyler Higbee, Allen Robinson, Cooper Kupp, and Sean McVay, I think it's going to be an electric offense this year. I think the defense will take a step back possibly, but I think this offense is going to be really nice for the Rams now.
Yeah, I can totally see that happening. I think Stafford's going to have a great year. The arthritis thing did knock my expectations down for him personally a little bit, but I'm
That's
still
fair.
behind him. I can see it happening for sure. He was also, I believe he was last season.
He was third last year.
Yeah, he was third. So
I mean, and he came into a new system without playing ever with those players.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
Passing touchdowns. I think passing touchdowns is not is sometimes is a volume stat, but can also be portrayed by how strong an offense is at times, as all touchdown stats can be manufactured to be that a little bit. So I think the best offense in the NFL, and I rank them as such in my offensive rankings, is the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think Joe Burrow is going to lead the league in passing touchdowns. Joe Burrow last season was eighth in touchdown passes, but he threw 34 of them. So it's not like he was lacking anything. I think Joe Burrow is going to have a better year this year than he did last year from maybe a little bit of a consistency perspective. But by the end of last year, I felt like he was really shredding defenses with regularity. I look at the offensive line being improved as such a big help for him. I think another year with Zach Taylor is helping. Uh, Another year of chemistry, even more chemistry with guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Their offense is just going to be so good this year, and I'm going to say Joe Burrow is the catalyst for that. I'm going to say he leads the league in pass touchdowns.
All right. Yeah, another one that makes sense. I mean, like I totally agree that totally could happen. I mean, like a lot of these stats are up in the air. We really don't 100% know what's going on here. So, good betting on one of the best offenses in the NFL with some of the best receivers, right? Anyway, my pick. This is okay. I know biased, right? I don't care. Derek Carr. He's going to lead the league in passing touchdowns. You know why? The entire Gruden era, Derek Carr has had a terrible red zone offense because scheme-wise and receiver-wise, they just were not there. So they were forced to run the ball in the red zone when they just could not get it done passing-wise. Waller was the only reliable target he could find in the red zone basically that entire era. Everyone else was just not good. Just plain and simple, they just could not get it done. Now he's got Devontae Adams, one of the best red zone receivers, period. Hunter Renfrow coming off of a career year, and now Darren Waller, which he wasn't healthy last year. I mean, I think this offense is going to be really nice. Like personally, I just think like it's set up in a situation, even with McDaniels now, to have not only the scheme but the receivers and the weapons just in general to set him up for very good volume stats in that way. And I think I think he's very good chance to at least be top 5. I mean, I think it's almost not a lock or anything, but I think it's pretty close to one for me personally. Like just the way I'm looking at it, it's hard for me to see him not at least getting in the top 5 of passing touchdowns in that way. But yeah.
I definitely think he'll be better. Like last year, he was top 5 in yards, but only threw 23 touchdowns. I definitely think you'll see that even out more. I can see it happening for sure. I think the Raiders are going to be a really good offense in general, too.
I'm a lot more higher on the Raiders offense than like basically everybody. So, keep that
And
in
I have
mind.
it ranked 4th. This guy had it ranked 2nd.
Second, baby.
Let's move to rushing yards. I feel like there's an obvious one here. I'm just going to say it without much of an explanation. It's Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, fair enough.
Jonathan Taylor, he plays behind an elite offensive line, especially for run blocking, first of all. Second of all, he had 1,800 yards last year. And third of all, he is the main primary workhorse running back in his offense. And the Colts are a run-first team. I do think they'll be able to throw it more efficiently with Matt Ryan than Carson Wentz, but still they're going to be run first, and I think Jonathan Taylor's perfect for that. I'm expecting a similar year to last year. Maybe slight decline in terms of total yards, but still around 1,700.
So this one is a little bit dubious. You're going to get on me a little bit for this, but this was a pick I chose based on a lot of factors that go their way. So like it could go left or right, and in a couple circumstances it goes right. And I'm going to say Saquon Barkley.
Oh, nice!
I think it's a good one because the way I look at it, the offensive line gets better, right? We still have a question mark on that quarterback position. We're not sure what's up with that. So they could really lean towards running the ball a lot more this year. He's in a situation where he's the only running back. He's not sharing rushes with anybody. He's the only person running the ball. He's another year off his injury, and he's going to be more explosive. He's just going to be more regular, more used to the offense. And even though I've heard reports they're using him more as a slot, or just in third down situations, I don't think that's a big deal generally because Brian Dable's shown that he's going to get his running backs involved. I think he's a really good shot that he can be a really nice running back this year, fantasy, whatever wise. And partly it's just because of all the things I said. Their defense also is not generally I don't know. It's not terrible, but it's not like great. But I think it's gonna. I don't know. I think that works. That's my argument for Saquon Barkley.
No, certainly a fair argument. My one thing is, honestly, if you would have said scrimmage yards instead of rushing yards, I could see it because I can absolutely see him with Brian
Yeah.
Dable having a huge like season like he did in 2018. But I just don't know. He might be too. It might be a McCaffrey thing where they
Mm-hmm.
line him up too much in option routes and in the slot and in receiving concepts and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and he gets too much volume there to actually get enough for rushing. But I like the prediction. All right, so for rushing touchdowns, let's move on here. Uh, this is going to surprise you because I've been
Oh.
low on
Okay.
him quite a bit in the past.
All right. Let's hear it.
But I think he's going to have a big year this year from a touchdown perspective, at least for sure. And that is Josh Jacobs of the Las
Oh,
Vegas
you're going the
Raiders.
opposite of me. I said they're
Yeah,
going to
I
stop running the
am.
ball in the red zone.
That's
I
pretty
said they're going to
funny.
they're going to pass more. All
So
right, let's hear it.
I look at Josh Jacobs. First of all, his last year at Alabama, he had 11 rushing touchdowns, which led the
Mm-hmm.
team. He also last year had 9 rushing touchdowns, and that was with a pretty weak red zone offense. I'm just going to
Yeah,
be honest.
we talked about that.
He had 12 touchdowns the year before that. So he's had a fair amount of touchdowns going back to even his college days and with the Raiders. And I look at the Raiders as a team that is going to be very good in terms of getting it between the 20s. And I think Jacobs, because of how powerful he is going to be able to convert on goal line situations and overall convert in short yardage situations near the goal line. So I can see him getting a lot of touchdowns. And because I think the Raiders offense is going to be very good. And because they just get rid of Drake or whatever his name was.
Yeah, he wasn't really going to be involved in the offense anyway.
Yeah, that's
but yeah.
fair. But I still think he's in less of a competition than some of the other guys who I could have considered. And plus, I thought picking Taylor to lead both would be kind of boring. I'm just going to be honest. I wanted to go a little bolder here, so I'm going to go Josh Jacobs.
Look, I'm just going to go obvious here. I'm not going to like sugarcoat why. I'm just going to say Derrick Henry. The obvious reasons are that the receiving core, obviously, there's a hole there. Robert Woods is a really good player, but, we don't know in the system, whatever. He's not like a touchdown machine. Treylon Burks is a new guy. Ryan Tannehill hasn't proven that he's a reliable guy in the red zone without A.J. Brown or without all these weapons. So I'm just seeing that they're going to probably just turn towards Derrick Henry like they always done. And, I mean, you saw last year. He's still good. He's still Derrick Henry. But, obviously injury is the only real thing with him right now that everyone's got a question mark. But I don't know. It's Derrick Henry. That's my reason. He's Derrick Henry.
No, that's completely fair. Derrick Henry's awesome. I just don't know if they'll get into the red zone enough for him to get as much volume.
That is a fair point. I didn't think about that. They got to get.
It could happen for sure if their offense is a little better than we think.
They
All right, so for the receptions leader, this is a tough one for me to predict, man, because I can see it going to a lot of different players, and it's tough to repeat reception leaders.
It is.
We typically don't see that happen. And so here's another one that I think you're going to love, Hunter Renfrow.
Yo!
Not Devontae Adams. Hunter Renfrow will lead the NFL
happen,
in reception.
Why?
Why?
Right, let's hear it.
I take you back to the 2007 offseason. The New England Patriots trade a 4th-round pick for Randy Moss. The Patriots bring in Randy Moss. He breaks the touchdown record. He has an amazing year. The 2007 receptions leader was not Randy Moss, but it was a New England Patriot by the name of Wes Welker. That is why.
Oh, man. That is a good point,
also was quietly 10th in receptions last year. That's all I'm going to say.
I don't know if it was quietly 10th. I feel like everyone kind of generally
It's going to be Hunter Renfrow is going to do it. That's my take.
That is low-key a good prediction, though, because Devontae Adams is going to use more. I feel like they're going to use him as a disguise, like they did with Tyreek Hill.
A decoy?
A decoy, yeah, sorry. That's what I meant to say. A decoy a lot more, because we still have really good underneath weapons like Hunter Renfrow and Darren Ball. Yeah, that's a good take. I like that. For me, Man, that's hard to follow up. I'm sorry. Stephon Diggs is my guy because, well, when
That
I'm
was the
looking at
other
it,
guy I was between.
yeah, Cole Beasley, he just left the offense. Emmanuel Sanders, he just left the offense. Josh Allen's only going to get better year two or what is it, year 5 now? I don't know. That's not what I meant to say.
It's year 5.
But yeah. And you have Ken Dorsey now at offensive coordinator. They're probably just going to give the keys to Josh Allen at this point. I feel like that's just how this is going to go. And we know how like legendary that connection's been. I feel like it's just a perfect storm of events for Stephon Diggs to get as many throws to him as possible. And obviously, has some of the best hands in the league. I'm not expecting him to drop it. I don't know. I just feel like Stephon Diggs is due for a great year right now. And after, I don't know if it was a disappointment, but it was generally not seen as good of a season as 2020.
No.
And especially after that playoff loss to the Chiefs, I'm thinking this whole team
Right.
is going to come off with a anger and a fire.
I like it. No, I can definitely see Stephon Diggs winning it. The only thing that turned him off for me a little bit is I do think the Bills are going to look to utilize more of Gabe Davis and Isaiah McKenzie this year. But yeah, I mean, I can absolutely see it. All right, my receiving yards later as we move on to the receiving yards category.
Ooh.
I am going. I don't know why I struggled to say that. I am going with Justin Jefferson, who I
Wow,
think
so surprising.
is going to have an absolutely monster year, as everybody does.
Yeah.
He's going to be utilized more in smarter, more diverse, and advanced receiving concepts than the basic offense that he was used in last year. Kevin O'Connell putting him more into that Cooper Kupp kind of role where he's going to get more volume, and he's better after the catch than Cooper Kupp is. He's just overall
Yes.
physically more talented, but he just didn't get the volume for whatever reason as much last year. But I think Justin Jefferson's going to have a great year, and I think we're going to look at him as potentially the best receiver in the league by the end of the year. So, not much.
Yeah. I mean, like, okay, so I'm just gonna keep it short because I was gonna say Justin Jefferson too. I didn't think you were gonna say it, but same reasons. He's gonna get a way better system than he did before. I mean, you could even spot offensive line got better, gonna give him better opportunities for Kirk to throw better passes to him. Adam Thielen's coming back. That's going to be an even better cover for him. He's going to get less attention. I don't know. There's just a long list of reasons why Justin Jefferson is that guy and why Justin Jefferson will probably lead the league in receiving yards. I mean, there's a lot of people, but it just feels like the doors open a lot more for most people, just considering what he had to deal with last year and the upgrades he's gotten this offseason.
Right. All right, moving on to receiving touchdowns. Again, this is going to be boring. Shamar Chase. I think was he tied with Kupp last year? He was up there. No, he was third. It went Kupp, Evans, Chase. All right. I think Burrow's going to lead the league in pass touchdowns, so I think Chase is going to lead the league in receiving touchdowns. You can't cover this guy. You just can't.
Can't do it. Another boring answer. This one might not be necessarily as true just because there's some outliers here, but I got Mike Evans just because his production with Tom Brady has been ridiculous over the last couple of years now. Only 2 years, but feels like a lot longer at this point. Anyway, Mike Evans is a touchdown machine. He's a matchup nightmare in the red zone, and he's shown consistently that he can be one of the best red zone threats in the NFL. And him and Tom Brady are going to continue to dice it up this year. The only thing that I'm like a little worried about is just the depth at receiver they have now. Last year, obviously, they had they had a really good receiving core. And Antonio Brown was taking a little bit away from Mike Evans, but I don't think it was that bad. That's why I'm not generally that concerned about Julio Jones and about Scotty Miller and all these.
The receiving core isn't at the top as good as it was last year. It's probably deeper though.
It's just a little more crowded. Generally, they're going to run a lot more receiver sets without Gronk. I think.
Probably more 4 wide receiver sets. All right, sack leader.
Sacks.
Another one of your guys, Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
Look, you can say what you want to say about him off the field, but on the field, he is an absolute animal. He was amazing last season. He was amazing in 29. He's been amazing when he's been healthy. He's going to be healthier this year. I think this is one of the better pass rushes he's played on. He's the number one guy this year, too, and I think he's going to absolutely take over the league in his second year with D'Amico Ryans.
Yes, sir. Nick Bosa, baby. I'm going to go Max Crosby here. I know a
I
little
like
bit
it.
of another like biased pick, but I have a reason though. I have a legitimate reason. He's playing besides Chandler Jones this year, which yes, he was playing against Yannick with Yannick last year. I would consider this maybe not a super big upgrade, but an upgrade regardless. He had the pressures last year. He was getting to the quarterback last year. The problem was that the quarterback was getting the ball out too fast for him to get there. He is just relentless. He's going to have another year on his belt, just generally whatever, getting better practice-wise. And I think he's going to play with a more competent defensive coordinator. Not that Gus Bradley was any bad, but I think he's going to be schemed up in more favorable situations, less double teams possibly, less generally moving around a lot more. I don't know. I just think that everything's there last year for him to have more sacks. I just think it just didn't get put together because the other side wasn't as strong as, because Chandler Jones is that guy, okay? They're both very similar athletes because they're just very big, very tall, and lanky, and just get after it. I don't know. I just think it's going to be – I think it's going to be his year for that, man. I really do.
I see it happening for sure. The Raiders in general were a pretty disruptive team last year too.
Yes.
Interception leader, I'm going to go with J.C. Jackson. I think J.C. Jackson's been up there the last couple years for interceptions. I think he's going to lead it this year. New scheme, I think he'll be able to adjust well to it. And I think the Chargers defense in general is going to be super disruptive, which is going to force quarterbacks into more bad decisions. And J.C. Jackson, just cover Jackson, will be right there to pick it off.
Man, okay. Before this, I said I wasn't going to say him, but now I'm kind of feeling it. I'm kind of feeling the pressure now. I'm going to get Trayvon Diggs. I know it's boring. I was feeling it. I looked through the list. I was confident in one other guy, and then I'm like, you know what? Nah. I mean, come on. I mean,
Interceptions is such a random stat.
It is a random stat, but it's like I might as well just pick the guy who's like very obviously. Like I gave up on the end. I was like, oh wait, no, I just gotta say it. Trayvon Diggs, obvious. It's obvious. I don't feel the need to explain it. I don't feel the need.
All right, moving on to the awards. Comeback Player of the Year. There's not a great pool of Comeback Player of the Year candidates to me.
It's pretty wide open. I'd say.
So I'm gonna go a little bit off the board here. I feel like to some. That's Jameis Winston. He's a quarterback that was injured last year for half the year, over half the year, a little bit actually. Was having a decent year statistic. Look, I'm not gonna say I'm a huge Jameis Winston fan because I'm not. But I think he'll have a fairly decent year with some of the weapons he's gotten. I think he'll stay healthy, and I think the Saints will be a pretty good team, as you'll see in my predictions. So I think that's enough, honestly, in this pool to win that award.
I'm not 100% sure if this is how they count it or not. Like, okay, I'll explain it.
Usually it's injured players coming back.
It is usually injured players coming back, but it can also be a massive jump from the year before after they were already good.
It can be.
So I'm going to say Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan last year had one of his worst years statistically. And generally, the vibe is like, oh, he's falling off. He's not like the same guy. He's just another quarterback in the carousel for the Colts. But if he has a really good year this year, like he is very obviously the AFC South leader. Like they win by like a couple games over like the Titans or whatever, and they just put it all together this year, and they're just really good. I would not be surprised if Matt Ryan won it. I mean, if he's in that conversation stats wise, and if he's in that conversation just generally play wise. He has all the combinations there, especially at a quarterback, the position they usually favor, with, not a lot of injuries last year. I think he has a really good shot of doing it. I also think, just real quick, Saquon is a good participant in that too. for I mentioned already before a lot of the reasons why.
I should have picked Matt Ryan, man. Why am I picking him?
I
I
got too
don't know. I
carried
don't care
away.
about comeback player of the year anyway. There's no
Alex
good.
Smith was so good though.
Well,
A couple
Smith
years ago.
deserved
Oh
to
my
win
god.
it for just coming on the field
I know. And then he
after
played like a
whatever.
couple games. I was like, what?
I don't know how.
I
All
was
right,
shocked.
coach of the year. I look at the teams who have the best records in the NFL, according to my predictions at least. And this may be a little bit of a spoiler. Sean McDermott is expected to have the best record in the league.
Yes, that is true.
Sean McVay is expected to have one of the best, if not the best, records in the league.
All the Seans.
And I feel like these guys are kind of proven. Matt LaFleur is another guy that's kind of proven.
Not a Sean, but
Todd
yes.
Bowles is not proven, but I think most people will give the credit to Tom Brady, and probably
Yes.
rightfully so, for the Bucs being a successful team this year. But the one guy I think that's going to end the year with a really strong record is going to end the year with his side of the ball actually being the stronger unit, despite having a really strong.
I know what you're going to say. All right, say it.
And the guy who I think is going to win maybe the best division in NFL history
I know it.
is Brandon Staley.
Yep, I know it.
I love his fourth down decisions just for the memes. And I think he's going to figure it out this year. I think the Chargers defense is going to be awesome. And I think he has a large part to do with that. And I think the Chargers are going to be a really good team. So I'm going to say Brandon Staley wins Coach of the Year in his second year.
It feels like half and half. Some people think he's going to get fired this year. It's kind of crazy. No, it's weird, man. Like
it is. No. People don't like Brandon Staley, Lenny. It's true.
Yeah, it is weird, man. It's just I don't know. It's weird the vibe. Even though I do agree, he's in the market. I think he's going to be in the market this year. I was going to make a joke. What was it? Oh yeah, Dan Campbell's my pick. No, I'm just kidding. He should win it. He should win it. What he's done for the Lions, though. What he's done for the Lions, like as an organization and just generally popularity-wise, is actually incredible.
Is there a single person on earth that doesn't like Dan Campbell?
I don't know. Maybe like his mom or something.
Why his mom not?
I don't know. I'm gonna say. Okay, so like this, I don't want to like spoil what my like predictions
Lenny,
are.
This entire bit is spoilers. Just go. You can do it.
All right,
I've spoiled like 4 things already.
Mike McDaniels, I think, is going to get coach of the year for the regular season. For the regular season.
The Niner fan picks the former Niner.
No. Like, if you look at it, though, like the controversy, right? There's so much controversy with this Dolphins team, right? With the Brian Flores stuff, with the Tom Brady, like Sean Payton stuff, and like just generally how they performed last year
was more accurate than Mahomes.
Exactly. The Tua transformation, right? Let's just say the Tua transformation happens. The offseason that they had as soon as he gets in the building. I mean, like all the things are going to add up to the point because I think they're going to have a good regular season, but I'll get into like everything about that. And like for him to get coach of the year, considering the division he has to play in, considering everything, like all the factors and like, wow, I can't believe he just did that. A Shanahan disciple. I mean, for me, a lot of the targets, as long as they have a good regular season like that, will go to him. And I think they have a pretty decent schedule for them to have a pretty good year, regular season-wise. We'll get to it.
All right, let's get to the defensive rookie of the year. And my pick for the defensive rookie of the year, maybe a little bit off the board.
Okay.
But 5 Georgia guys won in the first round. I'm not going to sit here and not pick a Georgia guy to win. Trayvon Walker seems like the obvious pick. He was the number 1 overall pick. I'm picking a Walker, but it won't be Trayvon Walker. It's going to be Quay Walker.
I thought you were going to just say it.
It's going to be Quay Walker. I'm going to say it right now. Quay Walker is going to come into Green Bay. He's going to absolutely change life. He's going to be a monster on the stat sheet in terms of like forced fumbles, interceptions, tackles, that kind of thing.
Man.
He's going to be on one of the best defenses in the NFL, in my opinion. And he's going to be on a successful team. And I think he's going to get recognition for that. Plus, he's a Georgia guy. I can't not pick him. So, defensive rookie of the year, Quay Walker, all over the field.
Wow, I was not expecting Quay Walker. Like, I would have. It's a good pick. I like it. It's off the board. You know, a lot of those generally happen where it's just like, oh, yeah.
There's a lot of random defensive rookie of the year.
Um, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't like do this one, so I'm just gonna throw out a joke answer. I'm just gonna say Jordan Davis because I love that guy. He's just like I don't. I just love Jordan. He seems like a great guy,
He
and
is.
he's just this behemoth of a human. And it's just like, how do you exist? You know, it's him and Vita Vea. Him and Vita Vea. It's just like, man, you're just a cheat code for NFL defenses, right? I
And
mean,
you're a
like,
pretty big guy too saying this.
I love it. No, I do. He's a absolute monster. I don't know how anybody can block him like one on one. Double teams are a different thing, but one on one is just like phenomenal athlete, phenomenal human. I mean, I'm just excited to see him on this Eagles defense, even if he isn't a starter, quote unquote. He'll get starting reps in terms of rotations, probably. But yeah,
The offensive rookie of the year will be next. This was a tough one for me.
yeah,
I'm going to go with the receiver, though. I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson.
okay.
This is an off the board pick a little bit. Is it an off the board pick? I don't know if it is or not.
I don't think it's necessarily. I think
Maybe
there's a
somewhat.
lot of them.
There's not a quarterback, though, this year. There's not even a star running back coming into a great
No,
situation.
that's like
So
Brees Hall, I guess.
I think Zach Wilson's going to have a better year with the Jets this year when he comes back, that is, which will be still early in the year. I think Garrett Wilson will establish himself as the number one receiver, and I think he'll have a pretty good statistical season.
Okay, fair enough. Again, I didn't do these ones. I didn't even think about the rookies. So, another kind of joke
Meme
answer,
pick
but kind of not joke. This is kind of a not joke answer, though.
is Amir White.
Um, no, Evan Neal, bro. Evan Neal. Give me
Evan
Evan Neal.
Neal, an offensive lineman winning an award.
Well, you
Wow.
like you just said, there's not a lot of like quarterback. There isn't like really a quarterback that can get it.
No.
There isn't a running back that can really get it. The only competition is the receivers right now, and just generally these receivers that were taken top of the board are like all starting quality already. Charles Cross is very good, but he won't get this, the publicity or whatever. Like, oh god, what was the Panthers guy name? Come on,
Ike Mekwonu.
Iquanu. It's the same kind of deal. But if Evan Neal, right, like I'm talking about the Saquon thing, if that goes in the same direction, and then he comes in, like as he's coming into the situation, and I've watched his film, he's actually pretty decent right now. He's like a pretty decent starter already, which is impressive for a tackle coming in this early in his career. And yeah, I think if he grades well on PFF, like people will know he's good. That's how people know people O linemen are good. By the way, anyone.
Yeah, I think
He
he's
just
the
has a
best
great
player in the draft, and I said that going in, but I just can't see an offensive lineman. I can't
That's
predict
fair.
an
Creed
offensive.
Humphrey didn't even get it last year. He had an argument,
No, and
even
he
though
was the
Jamar Chase
best
was
center in the
amazing.
league.
Yes, even though Jamar Chase was incredible.
Defensive player of the year. I'm again
Mm-hmm.
going with Nick Bosa. I think the
Yeah.
49ers defense is going to be absolutely amazing. It's going to be one of the
Yes.
best in the NFL. I
Love
think
it.
he's going to have, again, he's going to lead the league in sacks, which commands a lot of respect.
It
And I do think
does.
there's a little bit of Aaron Donald fatigue, especially after the whole
He
helmet
might not
thing.
even play the whole year. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, Aaron Donald, we know Aaron Donald's the best defensive player, but
Yes.
that doesn't mean he's always going to win Defensive Player of the Year.
Didn't mean
It's
it
kind of
last
like
year.
with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Some years they've lost out on MVPs. So
That's fair. I'm gonna go with an interesting pick here. I'm gonna go with Tre'Davious. I don't know why I said Trayvon. I almost said Tre'Davious White here.
Tre'Davious White,
The
an
way I look at this,
interesting
right?
a corner winning Defensive Player of the Year.
The Bills are gonna be most likely a top 2 defense this year. I mean, not only did they have a great defense last year, they added on to it with what's his name? Elam, the corner they
Von
just
Miller.
drafted. No, the corner they just drafted too. I was
Oh,
going to add the
Elam.
Von Miller. Yeah, Elam. Man, I love Elam. He looked really nice. I don't know what's going on with the injury, but anyway, yeah, they added Von Miller too. They added 2 guys who can start on a defense that was already ranked number 1 in the league last year. And I think Tre'Davious White was a big part of that early success they had last year. And obviously in the playoffs, they didn't have Tre'Davious White because he was injured. But I feel like it's all going to come together for him this year. And, he's obviously already Tre'Davious White. He's already great. But I think they're going to give Tre'Davious White the most credit for this defense generally, just because of how good he is. And I think he's going to rack up interceptions. I think he's going to put it on the stat sheet. And I think he's going to be attributed with the best defense in the league, or at least one of the best defenses in the league with one of the best records in the league. And with Aaron Donald having the situation he's having, I think it's open for that to happen. And TJ Watt apparently had an injury. I was going to pick TJ Watt, but then I heard something about an injury. So
I
I'm
think
not
it
like
may be tough
100%
for
of
him
it.
to repeat too, unless he
It
broke.
would be tough for him to ever repeat. I mean, Aaron Donald's the only one to repeat since JJ Watt. So the other
Okay, so
Watt,
the only corners that have won Defensive Player of the Year in NFL history:
throughout
Mel
Reed's.
Blount in 1975, Lester Hayes in 1980, Rod Woodson in 1993,
Charles
Deion
Woodson.
Sanders in 1994, Charles Woodson in
Yep.
2009. It should have gone to a corner that year. It should have gone to Revis, but went to
Yes.
Woodson, and Stefan Gilmore in 2019. So
2019
Tre'Davious
though.
White would be joining some Hall of Fame level company.
Gilmore was the situation that I just named, though. He was a part of the best defense, and
Right.
he was generally attributed to having the most success on the defense.
And he was on the strength of the defense, which was the second.
Exactly. That's the argument I'm trying to make.
All right, so the Offensive Player of the Year,
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Taylor was second last year in the voting, I believe.
Yes.
It was Cooper Kupp who won it. I think Jonathan Taylor wins it this year. He's going to have another monster year. I think with Matt Ryan, they may actually use running backs in the pass game more, and I do think he's a little bit underrated in terms of his receiving ability. So, yeah, I mean, he was great last year. I don't expect Kupp to be as good this year. And I think Chase and Jefferson, the other guys I strongly considered for this, are going to kind of cancel each other out in ways. And so Taylor's going to stand out more at his position than those guys will against each other. So I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor here, leading the Colts offense.
Sometimes it's almost like a running back because we give it to a receiver. I don't know. I'm just trying to think about it. Wait, didn't Derrick Henry get it in 2020? I'm trying to remember. How often do running backs get it? I could see that, though. I definitely.
It's either a running back or receiver award.
That is true. It's always a skill position. That's why I'm going to go for Trent Williams, even though he should have got it last year. No, I'm just kidding.
That's pretty funny.
I'm going to go with Devontae, man. I really think it's going to be crazy. I think he's going to have a crazy year.
Even though he isn't going to lead the league in a statistical
I don't think he's going to lead the league statistically, but I think people are going to generally see that the Raiders' offense is going to be, really good. Wow. That is scary good. I just think he's not going to lead the league in certain statistics. I don't think it's going to be like last year where it was Cooper Kupp and then everyone else. I think it's going to be generally a mix of 3 or 4 really good receivers like that. And Devontae is going to be in that mix. And I think you're going to see the offensive, you're going to contribute to success to him because he was the player that came over here after having a middle defense last year next to McDaniels. And I think they're going to contribute success to him, and I think it's going to be warranted.
Okay. I mean, I can definitely see it. All right, finally, the league MVP.
The MVP. Oh, my gosh.
Aaron Rodgers has won it the last 2 years. He's won 4 now. Going for a 5th to try and tie Peyton Manning's record. I don't think Aaron Rodgers wins it this year with the weapon situation they have currently. And, again, fatigue.
Yes.
I think it's, for me, was between a few guys. I think Josh Allen has a great shot at the award this year because I think there's more of a narrative towards him this year. I think Joe Burrow has a good shot at it as well because I just think the Bengals offense is going to be so dynamic. And a lot of the time, the quarterback with the best offense wins the MVP. But I'm going to go with Justin Herbert. Again, I think he's going to lead the league in pass yards. I think the Chargers are going to have a really good offense. I think the Chargers are going to have a really good record. And I think the difference is I think Justin Herbert winning that division is going to be looked at as a huge accomplishment, a bigger accomplishment than a division title may seem as, just because of how strong and how much hype there is currently, and the other quarterbacks in it as much, who are all pseudo MVP candidates in their own way too as well. But I'm going to go Justin Herbert for MVP with a strong statistical year.
Yeah, man, another year on offense. I mean, now they actually have a pretty good defense where at least we're suggesting that he's going to.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, leading the league in passing yards before. I could totally see it. Justin Herbert's
what a year for the Chargers this would be.
I
according
know,
to their
right?
predictions. Yeah.
But what if Joey Bosa get Defensive Player of the Year or Khalil Mack or
Well,
something?
J.C.
Or we
Jackson
got J.C.
actually.
Jackson with interceptions, right? Yeah.
Brandon Staley, Coach of the Year. Justin Herbert, MVP.
Derwin James, co-defensive player.
All right, Lenny,
Anyway,
who you got?
I
Derek
got
Carr?
Lamar Jackson. Lamar
Wait,
Action
what?
Jackson.
You have Lamar
Lamar
Jackson?
Jackson Jets. I have him
Oh,
getting a
you know people aren't going to
MVP.
like that.
Second MVP. Everybody
He's
is telling me Lamar is just not that guy. He's whatever his receiving core isn't great. It's not even really that good anyway. But I just see it coming together for the Ravens again this year. I don't know how they got the first seed last year with all the injuries they had. Lamar was 8-3 last year. I mean, he's injured. Is like what was it? His stats like were super cherry picked in the games that he played bad, and I just see it coming together. I mean, his passing has been up. It's just gone up every single year in his career. His general like winning has gone up every year, or it's stabilized. It's more stabilized than anything. And I just think I don't know. I just have a really good feeling about this Ravens team. And again, spoilers, but I mean, I think the Ravens are going to be one of the top teams in the AFC, and I think they're going to win the division with the Super Bowl champions last year, or not Super Bowl champions, Super
AFC
Bowl
champions.
AFC, whatever you said
Champions.
it, the AFC champions. And I think this Ravens team with Mark Andrews, who had a career year last year, upgraded O line crew, J.K. Dobbins coming back, who had a great rookie year. Rashad Bateman another year on offense. Defensively, they'll hold up their end because John Harbaugh is John Harbaugh, and just generally the talent they have. I think it's going to be a really good year for the Ravens, and I think Lamar is going to have maybe not the rushing year he had last year, but he's going to show everyone that he's not just a running back, but he can indeed pass, and he can pass better than your favorite quarterback.
So he'll have his best passing year ever this year.
I don't think that's a crazy take.
No, it's not. It's not a crazy take, which is why it's crazy to me that some people will think it's a crazy take.
He's like, well,
So
you can't get better as the year goes on. And
Lamar Jackson would be joining as multiple-time MVP winners Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Jim Brown, Johnny Unitas, Brett Favre, Tom Brady, Joe Montana and Steve Young, your guys, and Kurt Warner.
I mean,
Not a
like
bad
you
group
heard
to
it
be
here.
in.
Yeah, and it's what is his third year or fifth year in the NFL? I mean, not bad.
This would be his fourth full season. Fifth.
He's just, do people get it? It's his fourth year. Oh my gosh, like
All
that's
right.
crazy.
Let's move on to the record predictions, Lenny, or
Oh
season
boy,
predictions.
this is the best part.
Do you want to go division by division? Do you want to just do full conferences?
I
How do you
wanted
want
to go like from seeding
16 to
from
1?
bottom to one. Yeah, each
All
division
right.
or each conference.
Let's start with the AFC. I'll give a little bit of a thought process on how I feel about each team
Okay.
and why they're there. So my number 16 seed in the AFC, Houston Texans at 2-15. They're just not very good. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
15, the New York Jets, 6-11. It's too tough of a division, I think, for them to be much better. I do think they'll be competitive, though. The Pittsburgh Steelers, 14 seed. I just think the people that are high on him are putting too much weight on mystique and coaching. I think the roster is severely flawed. I think their defense is a bit overrated. And I just don't see much on offense. Plus, they don't know really who their quarterback's going to be. 13, Jacksonville Jaguars at 6-11. I can see the Jags having a better year than some think with Trevor Lawrence in his second year with a new coach that doesn't actively hate being the coach. And some more defensive potential than I think some people think as well. But and in a fairly easy division, honestly. But I do think they're still young at quite a few spots, and it'll take some time for Peterson to fully embed himself into Jacksonville. So that's why I have them only at 6-11. The Browns at 7-10. Not really an explanation needed here. Your quarterback's Jacoby Brissett for most of the year. And I think the roster's a bit overrated as well, just honestly. The Patriots as my 11 seed at 8-9. I think their team as a whole is actually pretty good, but I think the coaching, especially offensive coaching, is catastrophically bad. Just to be blunt here. And because of that, I think that holds them back from being a true playoff team. So I have them at 8-9 as the 11 seed. Tennessee Titans, a little bit of the same thing with them too. I'm not a fan of their offensive coaching. I'm not a fan of this offense in general. I think this defense is very good, but is it good enough to truly carry them to the playoffs, especially
Is it?
again? I don't know. So I have them at 8 and 9 as the 10 seed. Number 9 seed, maybe a bit of a hot take here, but I have the Denver Broncos as the number 9 seed at 9 and 8.
Dang.
The Broncos are a good team for sure. And I could absolutely see them not only making the playoffs, but potentially, if everything goes well, winning the division. But I don't know. I feel like there's much more question marks with their rosters than with their roster than people are making out. I think their defense is overrated. I don't see a ton outside of Justin Simmons and Patrick Surtain of game changers. I think their front seven, especially, is being overvalued a bit. And I think they're still a bit exploitable. Even with DJ Jones added, I still think they're a bit exploitable on the edges with run defense. And that division is just such a gauntlet. It's going to be tough for them, I think, especially with the first-year head coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Number 8 seed, just missing out on the playoffs with tiebreaker, is the Miami Dolphins, as I said in my AFC East preview, at 10 and 7. I think the Dolphins are going to be better than some people think offensively. I think Tua is going to be comfortable, and I think he's going to have a better year than some people are pondering that he's going to have. But I don't know. They're losing out on tiebreaker here. I still think their ceiling is limited by their quarterback. And at the end of the year, you look at their closing schedule. They go at Niners, at Chargers, at Bills, Packers, at Patriots as 5 of their last 6 games. That's a really tough stretch.
Yeah.
And I think that stretch at the end of the year, because they've got such a brutal stretch there, could see them just miss out on the playoffs very late into the year. And I'm still not completely sold on Mike McDaniel, completely. My number 7 seeds, your Vegas Raiders. I think they're at 10 and 7. I think they start off the year fairly hot. I think they take some people by surprise. I think their offense is going to be awesome. I think their defense scales pretty well because of their pass rush. I do think their secondary is exploitable, which may be an issue come playoff time. But their offense is going to be able to win them games and will be able to win them any game. And Derek Carr gives you a shot in any game. These weapons give you a shot in any game. So I've got the Raiders coming into the playoffs as the number 7 seed. My number 6 seed, the Baltimore Ravens, also at 10 and 7. It was tough for me to differentiate if the Ravens were going to win the division or just miss out. I do still think the Bengals have a few less question marks on the roster as a whole, but I think the Ravens are a really strong team. I think the Ravens defense is really good. I think the Ravens offense is going to be fun. I think they're going to be really good in the run game. My question would be, how good are they truly in drop back pass situations, as it's been for the Ravens the last couple years? But I do think with Lamar back and with the tight end trio that they have, they could be better than some people think in that area. My number 5 seed, the Kansas City Chiefs at 11 and 6, not winning the division. I think that streak comes to an end this year. I'm going to say it right now. The Kansas City Chiefs are a really good team, but I think with the toughest schedule in the NFL, with an overall roster that is, at the very least, has not improved as much as any of the other rosters in the division, and with an offense that I'm wondering if some of their tricks got a little bit figured out at times last year. I don't completely know. But it's still Patrick Mahomes. It's still Andy Reid. It's still one of the best offensive lines in football. It's still Travis Kelce. It's still Chris Jones. And it's still a defense that I think probably overall got deeper and more athletic. So that's why they come in as the 5 seed. 4 seed, I'm going to go with the Bengals at 11 and 6. I think this roster got
one more win
better from the team that got to the Super Bowl last year. I think their defense is a bit underrated, and I think their offense is the best in football. So I think they win their division. The 3 seed is the Colts, who beat the Bengals out on tiebreaker due to the common opponent, funnily enough.
Really? That's how it broke?
Yeah, that's the 3-4 tiebreaker there between the Colts and Bengals.
All right.
I think Matt Ryan's going to have a good year. I think Jonathan Taylor, as I said, going to win Offensive Player of the Year. I think some of the pass targets this team has to offer is a little bit slept on. Like, I think Alec Pierce has been great in camp. I think Paris Campbell, if he can actually stay on the field, is going to be a contributor. I even think Ali Cox at tight end is a bit underrated. And the defense, I think, is very strong. So I've got the Colts as my 3 seed at 11-6. They also have a very easy schedule, if I'm being completely honest here.
Yeah.
2 seed,
No, it's right.
the darlings of the NFL, according to my season award predictions, is the Chargers at 12-5. I think the Chargers come in with a league MVP at quarterback and a top 5 defense and the coach of the year. And I think they're
Dang, son.
pretty strong in almost every area. They've gotten so much better this year in terms of depth, in terms of run defense, in terms of, I think, offensive line, even in terms of secondary, certainly. And I think that gives them enough firepower to win that division. And my number 1 seed should come to zero surprise, Buffalo Bills, 14-3. Best team in football, maybe the best quarterback in football, maybe the best defensive coaching staff in football. I think the best defense in football. And an offense that, again, with Josh Allen, they're not exactly going to be struggling to score in many games. Yeah, there's my AFC predictions.
Wow.
So that would take us to the
Shockers.
wild card matchups real quickly. So that would be the Bills getting the 1 seed, and then that we would get the 7-seeded Raiders at the 2-seed Chargers,
Ooh!
the
Oh, that would be
6-seeded
a fire
Ravens
game.
at the 3-seed Colts, the 5-seeded Chiefs at the 4-seed Bengals. I love those matchups.
Those are actually some really good matchups.
All right, Lenny, your turn.
Yeah, that was a lot of really, really shockers. Some ones I expected, but generally, I think you backed up everything you said pretty well. I agree with a lot of it. I don't agree with some of it, but ultimately, that's always going to happen. That's always going to happen. Anyway, I do agree with you on this though. 16, the Texans, but I had them 14 and 13.
Does anyone disagree
or
with
4 and 13. I think it's a toss-up between a couple NFC teams and the Texans right now, with the worst team in the NFL. But yeah, I mean the Texans don't have any superstar talent anywhere, and they don't even have like really that good talent just generally across
just
the board.
Brandon Cooks, that's it.
Yeah. The Jags, I had 4 and 13. Trevor Lawrence is getting a lot of hype this year going in. I don't necessarily not see it. I just don't see a lot of factors factoring into them being like better than 4 wins. But I can see it. I can see the angle. Just personally, I just don't see it meshing this year. Steelers, I had 5 and 11. I know you had them the 14 seed too. This is just generally, I don't know, it's a vibe thing. I watched last year, or not last year, but with the Patriots in 2020, going into that year, I remember everyone telling me, Belichick, he never had a losing season. He's never going to, with whatever. And then he did. And then he had that season where it just dipped. Considering even though the talent wasn't necessarily awful, I think it's a similar situation here. It's sometimes when you just don't have that quarterback, the year after is just tough. You saw it with the Saints last year with Drew Brees. Even though there was a lot of injuries there, you still saw it. There was a dip off. The Titans, I have 6 and 11. I feel like this is even a little bit.
Whoa.
This is a little bit of like a disservice to the Titans, if I'm being completely honest. I'm not like, it's not the fact that I think that their roster is bad. It's not the fact that I think their coaching is bad. I just think their offense is a massive liability at this point. I just think it's gotten to the point where it's going to cost them too many games for them to get anywhere meaningful. I think in this AFC and their schedule, as they got the 1 seed, they got matched up with a lot of really tough opponents this year. And I think it's going to be from 1 seed to 13 seed. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be this low, but I definitely don't see them with a winning record this year, considering all the turnover they've had all over the place. Defensively, they might be really
collapse episode on Secret Base.
That might be, honestly. That would be an epic collapse of unmeasurable proportions. 12, I have the Browns. I think the Browns are a decent roster. I think they have a pretty good roster, if I'm being honest. But there's just so much controversy with this team. I mean, I don't have to go into it with the Sean stuff, but like even the Kareem Hunt stuff, where he wanted to get traded. Just generally, this team has not a lot of good vibes, and I think the receiving core is just generally overrated. It's just not that talented. even if like the backup quarterback's coming in, he's not going to have a lot to throw to anyway. So I just have them 7-10. I have the Jets 7-10 too. I have them tying. A lot of this has to do with the fact that I think that their roster is very sneaky underrated. I think Sauce Gardner's been really good in camp. I've seen him just play good in preseason. I really like their defense. I really like how they are their depth chart. I just like how it looks. It just looks nice. Quan Alexander. They have C.J. Mosley, a really nice front seven, and they have an underrated defensive backfield because last year they've almost replaced almost every starter at this point in their secondary. I think it's just a much improved unit. Offensively, they got Laken Tomlinson, which I'm a huge fan of as a Niner fan, and generally, I think it's just going to be a step up from last year. So I think they're going to end up being sneaky better than last year and might be on the come up considering the quarterback situation. The Broncos, I have 8-9. The Broncos are a weird team to me because you kind of laid it out already. There's just, I mean, the quarterback situation with the new head coach, not the quarterback situation, but Russell Wilson just coming in with a new head coach, generally just not a super talented defense. Just generally, I think it's a really decent defense. Like I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's as talented as people are giving it credit for. But it's still not bad, but it's not good enough with the drop off with what's his name? The head coach. Who they have a head coach before?
Hackett.
I always know last year. They had last year.
Oh, Vic Fangio.
Yeah, Fangio. I always like forget these like random names with freaking in the NFL. Anyway, losing Fangio was bigger than people I think than most people think. He was really impactful defensively, coordination wise with that team. And I just think their offense isn't going to be able to keep up. I think they stagnate on offense and they get worse on defense, leading to a similar record. But I got the Patriots at 9-8. I think the Patriots are sneaky underrated with their roster. I just think their coaching is just not that good. It's just not. Belichick, or offensively, I want to say that specifically. Losing Josh McDaniels is a bigger deal than people think. Their receiving core last year was not very good. And there was a lot of very big question marks generally in the skill positions. And Josh McDaniels schemed it up in a way to where it looked almost like he was doing the bad job because it just felt like they could do more, even though, like, in retrospect, it was like, wow, he really did a great job with this offense last year, at least statistically. They were, I mean, for the beginning of the year, they looked really nice. They were ranked very highly in most statistics. Efficient. Exactly. And with the loss of him to Matt Patricia, whatever's going on there, it could be a really meaningful drop-off. And it just turned in terms of that. But I think they added better talent. I think Devontae Parker is a sneaky underrated addition. I think Devontae Parker adds that deep ball contested catch element that we didn't see last year. I saw so many passes from Mac Jones where he'd throw it up and he'd have a one-on-one opportunity, and they just would not bring it down because the receiving talent in that area just wasn't there. I don't know if he's going to play the whole year, but I think it's going to add a good dimension to the offense. So, defensively, I think they'll be about the same, but I think offensively is where they might feel a little different. So one more loss than last year. So this is where we start hearing some interesting takes. Like, this is where you're going to be like, what? So number 8, I have the Bengals. I don't want to do this. I didn't want to do this. No, I didn't want to do this at 10-7. At 10-7, I have them repeating as last year. This isn't because I don't like the Bengals. I really do like what they did this
I like
offseason.
it. No, I like the
I really like everything that happened last year. I love Joe Burrow. I love Jamar Chase. I love the receiving core. It's just too much. I think it's just too much. I think it's going to be, you see the Super Bowl hangover. This has nothing to do with the Bengals as a team in this sense, but the Super Bowl hangover hits, and I've seen it with the Niners. I saw it with the Chiefs almost a little bit last year. Not like this, not in this, the Falcons. Yes. The Eagles, even when they won the Super Bowl, it was, I mean, there's always this Super Bowl hangover. I just don't think, I don't know. I feel like they're not going to have that fire they had last year. They were the underdog last year. Their mentality going into every game was no one thinks we're going to win this game. Yeah. Nobody thinks we're going to win this game. We're the underdogs. And now they're coming into the year like, we have legit expectations now, which they didn't last year. No one even thought they were going to make the playoffs, and they made the Super Bowl. So, obviously I have them repeating as the same record. And 10-7 is usually good enough to make you into the playoffs. I just think there's enough parity in the AFC to where they barely miss. And I think here, let me see. I think they lost to the Ravens in their last game. So if they beat the Ravens in their last game, they would have made the playoffs. So it's not like I'm trying to discredit them completely. They could win that game. It's just I just see enough factors for me to be like, man, they might just not get over the hump.
First place schedule this year too.
Yep, they have a tough schedule. I looked at that too. I was looking at a lot of wins, a lot of yeah. Anyway, I have the Chiefs as my 7th seed. A lot of similar situations with you. Actually, the Bengals do play the Chiefs in this year or in this game, and the Chiefs. I had the Chiefs winning that game,
So that's what gets
which
them
could
in.
that would change. If see, look, there's a lot of opportunities for the Bengals to make the playoffs in my scenario, and I have them barely missing in that sense. But if they win that game, or if they win that Ravens game, they get in. So it's not like I'm totally off on them. I just think they might not have the same fire like last year. Anyway, the Chiefs. I mean, I don't know why people are underrating the talent that they have on offense. I mean, they still have Patrick Mahomes. Their O-line is fantastic. Maybe not run blocking, but pass blocking, they're fantastic. Juju's going to be an underrated ad, especially in fantasy, I think. And I don't know. I just see their defense being at least the same. So where you see a 2-win drop-off from last year, I saw Patrick Mahomes in preseason. And, about all the smack that we hear from Patrick Mahomes, and
Dude,
then I
he was
watched him again, I was like, wait.
phenomenal.
I was like, hold up. I forgot this is Patrick Mahomes for a
Yeah.
second. Like in the offseason, I was hearing all these things like the Chiefs were going to be whatever. And then I watched the offense. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's why. So I think Karlaftis was really nice in preseason. I watched him. He looked really good. I think their new defensive, what was it, McDuffie? He looked good too. I think they're going to be all right. I think they're not going to be the same kind of team, but they're going to be all right. The Chargers, I have 10-7 as well. I think that means win the division.
Yes, I do.
The Chargers I have 10-7. This is a similar case with the Bengals because they also play the Bengals. No, they don't. Never mind. Anyway, they also are in that mix. I just don't think generally to start the year they're going to be that fiery, like on top, like talent wise. It's a lot of new pieces on defense is going to cost them early in the year, I think, and you're going to see that. But I still think they're going to be a really nice team. I think they're going to show a lot of flashes. But in an AFC West as stacked as this, I think it hurts their win total overall. Here's a very okay, Mitch is gonna kill me for this. So I got 5. I got the freaking Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins at number 5. The 12-5 Miami Dolphins. So you know why though?
Why?
I don't think they're gonna be good necessarily. I think their schedule is just absolutely going to open the door for them to get these easy wins, and they're going to they're going to sneak in as this
They're
team like,
fluke
oh
their
my
way to the
God,
5 seed.
this is going to be the team like last year, the 2020 Steelers, the 2021 Cardinals. It's going to be that team everyone thinks is going to be really good in the beginning of the year, and then they're just going to flatline in the playoffs. I'll get there, but I think that they have all this new talent. I have all this explosion. And I just think it's going to be this team where you're like in the regular season, like, how can this team lose? And then they do. And then they start like tampering off. That's what I think about this Miami team. This isn't necessarily how good I think this team is. This is just how I think they'll do in the regular season. There's a difference here. So, yeah, I think Tua is going to look decent for most of the year, and then he gets in the playoffs, and then I'll talk about it. So, like, listen to this, though. They have to play the Patriots 2 times, where they've given problems with. They got to play the Jets 2 times, which, they're the Jets, generally not, like, 100% that team. Vikings, Steelers, Lions, Bears, Browns before Deshaun Watson comes back, Texans. And, I mean, it's – the door's open for them to really just sweep up those easy wins. And I think
you're right.
It's going to elevate
their
them.
Their schedule isn't that tough.
I think it's going to elevate them record-wise, and I'll talk about it later, what they're going to do in the playoffs. Anyway, number 4, I have the Colts. I think the Colts are far and above the best team in the AFC South. I actually had the second best AFC South team winning 6 games, so it's not even going to be a competition, I don't think, in this conference. 11-6. The Titans were 6-11. I think the Colts are set up in a perfect situation for Matt Ryan. Last year, his receivers just were not good. This is the worst receiving core he's had in probably his career, or at least close to it.
It was the worst he's had in his career. The only one that comes close was 2013.
And his O-line was awful. Maybe not awful, but it was really bad. It was really bad. And just a lot of factors coming into him to make him look old. I think it's a similar situation to Tom Brady before he went to Tampa. When you saw Tom Brady, you had question marks. You're like, oh, this guy looks so old. He looks washed. You know why? His receiving core was terrible. That's why he had Julian Edelman, and that was it. He looked bad because he didn't have receivers. And when you're older and you can't move out of the pocket like a Patrick Mahomes, you need your receivers to elevate you, and you need your scheme to elevate you. And obviously McDaniels was really nice, but it's not enough. So when I see Alec Pierce, when I see Michael Pittman, when I see Jonathan Taylor, and I see a really good O-line, I just look at that and say, why can't Matt Ryan have a similar jump? I see it. I can see it right there, and it's clear as day in a bad division, one of the worst in football. I don't see how they can't have this jump this year. And defensively, they added a lot of talent. They're already one of the most talented defenses in the league before that. Generally just maybe didn't put it together the same way that Gus Bradley might this year. I think this is going to be a really good regular season and, I won't talk about postseason yet, but I think it's going to be a really good team. Maybe the win total isn't 100% like a 12-win team, but I think they're going to show it in the later part of the year.
They'll
So I have the
probably win
Raiders
somewhere between 10 to 12.
That's where I think. That's where I'm hovering right now. So I have the Raiders 12-5, the 3 seed, baby. Silver and black. Silver and black. We did it, baby. We finally got there. The Raiders have gotten a better record every single year since 2019, or was it 2018? Since 2018, we've gotten better every single year. I don't see that stopping now. You just add Devontae Adams. You get Darren Waller back. The offensive line is going to have, well, it's still not good, but it's going to be a little bit more parity. It's going to have better coaching. And the defensively, you lose Gus Bradley, obviously, but you replace him with Patrick Graham, one of the best defensive coordinators in football. And I just look at this offense, and I'm just like, this is the headline. I just look at the offense, and I'm just like, how is this going to lose? The only way I can see this is that the offensive line is a liability. But I've seen McDaniels in preseason. I've seen McDaniels even with the Patriots. I trust him to figure it out. The Raiders in preseason look great. I don't know if anyone watched, really cared.
No,
but
I
they looked
listened to y'all's
fantastic.
podcasts about it. They looked organized. They looked structured.
And the whole point is in preseason for me is coaching. And when you go from Gruden to having a generally not super well coached team, generally not super organized, to watching what I watched, I was just blown away. And I think this team is going to be really nice. And I think it's going to be spearheaded by one of the best offenses in the NFL and possibly the best offense in the NFL. At 2, I have the Bills. The Bills are great. They're fantastic, but I have one team ahead of them I think is going to be even better or generally around the same kind of area. But the Bills, we've laid it out already. They added on defense already with already one of the best defenses in the football. And offensively, despite losing 2 receivers who, not great, but they were still contributors, are one of the most talented areas in football. And you have Josh Allen, obviously, the best quarterback, arguably, in football. It's not a lot to go in there. They're great. They have a really good roster. They're coming in as the favorites. And I think they're going to win at least the top 2 seeds.
What do you got the record at?
13-4.
Okay.
So the number 1 team tied them with record, but I don't know what the tiebreaker. Oh, they had a head-to-head match week 4, and I had this team winning. I had the Ravens 13-4. I see the angle with the Ravens. I just see I was talking about with the Bengals with motivation with the Super Bowl. They were 8-3 at one point, or whatever it was, where they were the first seed.
They were 8-3.
And they went down because everyone got injured. I see John Harbaugh using that as a motivation factor. If you hey guys, we were there before. We have the talent. We added more talent. We're just gonna keep getting better, and we're gonna be what we were last year. We're gonna get back to that spot. Lamar Jackson wasn't even playing half the year they got to that point. And I just see all the factors. The only thing is the receiving core. The receiving core is the only thing for me where I'm just I don't know. And I think Rashad Bateman's going to be good enough to be that lead number 1 guy for the whole unit to be elevated. We saw it in 2019. All it took was Marquise Goodwin just to be good for everyone else to be around him. And Mark Andrews, I don't know if anyone remembers this, but Mark Andrews was incredible last year. People don't talk about this enough. I really don't think so. This was one of the best tight end seasons ever. And people don't really talk about it that much because the Ravens didn't make the playoffs. But the Ravens almost made the playoffs last year. People don't talk about that either. They had an outside chance of actually making the playoffs in week 18. And considering all the stuff that happened to them, all the ads that they made this offseason, and the fact that they were 8-3 with all that happening, I don't see how this team can't just skyrocket with the upgrade that at quarterback, obviously, because they didn't have him last year. I think this is going to be a really nice team. I think it's going to be about as fun as 2019. And I think people are going to have to start giving Lamar his respect back after this. Quite frankly, it's going to be a really fun year, I think.
No,
So I'll.
I can totally see that. As I was doing the Gronk video and I was doing stats for that. Mark Andrews' 2021 season was like consistently among the best in terms of basically every advanced stat and total stat there was. And I think Lamar is coming into the season with an edge. I can totally see the angle of the Ravens being the 1 seed. I like the predictions, Lenny. I don't agree with them, but I like how bold some of them are, and I like
Yes.
your descriptions of how you think they'll fare come playoff time without actually revealing it. So, what would your wild card matchups be then? Because the
Wait,
Ravens would
I
get the
had
bye.
it for a second. Let me just look at it real quick. Yeah, this freaking website, bro.
I know it's so annoying.
Okay. I have the Dolphins versus the Colts, 5 and 4 seed. 6 versus 3, Chargers versus Raiders. Well, again, which is funny that we both had that matchup. And then Chiefs Bills in the wild card, which
Oh,
would be a grudge match of the ages. Oh my gosh.
yeah. Okay. All right. Moving on to the NFC. My number 16 seed. It's the Atlanta Falcons. I hate doing this.
So
3-14.
sad.
Honestly, I don't think the Falcons are really any worse than the Seahawks or Bears are, and those are my 15 and 14 seeds. But they have the toughest schedule, so that's why they'll finish
They do. They
last.
have a tough schedule.
The Bears at 15 seed. This team is a disaster. Just look at the roster.
It's a disaster.
14 seed Seahawks. They'll win a couple division games for no reason because they always do. But and Pete Carroll is probably the best coach of those three, but they're just not good without Russell Wilson. I'm sorry. Their defense is a disaster. Their offense is a little overrated, I think. I still don't know if they'll actually start Geno Smith or Drew Lock, and that's an
I
issue.
think they're going to do Lock. I think so.
13 seed Detroit Lions at 6-11. I like the Lions offense a bit. I'm not sure how consistent it'll be week to week, though. And then the problem, I think, is going to be because they have the worst defense in football. They're going to have to be scoring 30 to win every week. And I just don't know how consistently they can do that. The 12 seed, the New York Giants. The Giants could be better than this because they play in a pretty weak division.
Yeah.
And I like some of the stuff I've seen from Daniel Jones. I'm just not fully there with Daniel Jones. I need to see more. I'm to the point with him where I need to see it to believe it at this point. And we'll see
That's
how Brian
fair. That's
Daboll
fair.
does as a head coach. I think their defense is solid. I don't think it's great. My number 11 seed is the Carolina Panthers, and it's kind of the same thing with Baker Mayfield a little bit. I like some of the stuff I've seen with him from camp and preseason. Haven't liked some of the other stuff. I still think their offense is a concern. I think their defense is fine. I think it's actually pretty good, but I don't know if it's better than it was last year, where they were a very good defense for parts of the year. And I just don't know if Matt Rule can be an effective coach at the NFL level. So that's why I've got them at 6-11 at the 11 seed. My number 10 seed's the Washington Commanders. I have them at 7-10. I had them at 8-9 originally, but Carson Wentz has concerned me recently with some of the stuff I've read. So I've moved them down a bit. I think their defense has gotten worse. I think their offense is underrated a little bit in terms of offensive line and skill players. But again, I'm just not sure about Carson Wentz or the coaching. So I've got them at number 10.
Real
My
quick,
number 9
I just
seed.
wanted to ask real quick. Have you seen that interview that person tried to do, where he tried to be like, yeah, you played really badly in camp, Carson Wentz. How do you feel about that?
Just
I was just
brutally
thinking about
honest there.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
my number 9 seed, Arizona Cardinals, also at 7-10. I think this team's overrated because they added Marquise Brown. And for some reason, people are acting like
Hollywood.
this team got better. The
Hollywood,
roster
baby.
is not very good. It just is not very good to me. Their defense is severely flawed, I think, especially in the secondary. And their offense, I think, is overrated because We don't know if Brown's coming into the year fully healthy and fully embedded.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how good of a schemer Cliff Kingsbury really is, even after 3 years. We don't honestly, we don't really think DeAndre Hopkins is the same. I mean, I know us two don't. We don't think he's quite the same player. And he's suspended for the first 6 games, too. Plus, Kyler Murray, after Call of Duty comes out every year, just goes like this. So,
Oh my gosh! Wait, hold up.
have you
The
seen that graphic?
no. Some rookie running back for the Commanders was shot in a carjacking or something like an hour ago. Oh
Are
my
you
god!
serious? Is he
No,
okay?
I'm serious. I don't
What's
know.
his
I just
name?
Brian Robinson. That's
Oh,
crazy.
he was at Alabama. Yeah, I remember Brian
Oof,
Robinson.
that is.
That's
Oh, he was the
awful.
one that was going to bench Antonio Gibson, right?
I don't know
Dude,
if he
that
was
is.
going to bench Antonio
Well,
Gibson.
that was the thing everyone was saying. Oh my god,
Anyway,
that's
I hope he
crazy.
gets better. My number 8 seed, the Dallas Cowboys at 8 and 9. I originally did have them at 9 and 8, and tied with another team for the 7 seed, but losing out on head to head. But I've got the Cowboys at 8 and 9 because they just lost Tyron Smith for probably the whole year, and I think that's a huge loss because he was awesome last year. Trent Williams got the attention, but Tyron Smith was amazing for this team.
Mm-hmm.
And without him, without that stability on the offensive line, I think it makes their offense weaker. I already thought their offense was weaker coming into the year. I'm not a fan of Mike McCarthy, and I think their defense is very exploitable in a lot of areas. And I don't think they'll be as lucky with turnovers. So I've got the Cowboys coming in at 8 and 9 and actually missing the playoffs. Sorry, Cowboys fans. At number
Sorry,
7,
guys.
the Vikings at 10 and 7. Apparently, according to Mitch and Lenny, I love the Vikings now for some reason. Like you guys were saying, pick the Vikings or whatever. I
Dude,
mean,
I
I think
literally
the
just
Vikings are
followed what
good.
he said.
I like their offense a lot. I think Kirk Cousins is going to have the best year of his career. Bold prediction with Kevin O'Connell. I think Dalvin Cook is awesome. I think Justin Jefferson, as I said, he's going to have a great year. Their offensive lines is better. Their
Mm-hmm.
defense is still flawed, but I do think is stronger in areas too. So I think honestly, in a pretty weak NFC, they can make the playoffs pretty easily. So number 6 seed, kind of the same thing with this team as the Saints at 10 and 7. I think this roster is awesome. They're so good defensively. You can't run on this team. Over the last 4 years, they've been the best team in run defense on a per carry basis. In pass defense, they're I think the strongest they've ever been with Dennis Allen. And offensively, they're going to have games where they miss. They're going to have games where they hit. But ultimately, again, in a weak NFC, in a weak division, that's going to be enough, especially with how this team seems to have the Bucks number. I think that's going to be enough for them to get into the playoffs at the 6 seed.
Mm-hmm.
5 seed is your San Francisco 49ers at 11 and 6,
Yeah.
led by Trey Lance. No, I'm just kidding. A big Trey Lance carried by this team in the regular season. I think he'll end the year pretty strong as he gets more embedded into the system. I think the run game will be strong as always with Kyle Shanahan. I think the defense is going to be very good. I think the offensive line is a little bit concerning, but again, as it gets later into the year, I think they should improve. And Kyle Shanahan, I think, does enough to navigate them to a playoff spot, and again, a pretty weak wild card race. So Niners come in at 11 and 6 for me. The another team at 11 and 6, the 4th seed for me is the Philadelphia Eagles, who I think the
Mm-hmm.
Niners and Eagles are very similar, just in terms
They
of
are very
kind of
similar.
how they're built, how they want to play. They want to run the ball. They want to be efficient in the passing game and hit some explosive plays downfield. They want to have command of both lines of scrimmages. I think the Niners are more creative. I think the Eagles are a little more talented. I think the Eagles, because they play in a weak division, will be able to win a lot of games. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to have, again, games where he's really good, like he did last year. And this team can really run on pretty much anyone. So I think the Eagles come in here as the number 4 seed. Number 3 seed, this is where we get it starting into the same as we kind of saw last year. The Green Bay Packers at 12 and 5.
Ooh,
I don't
wow.
think they get the 1 seed as like they have the last 2 years. I think the schedule is a little tougher. I think the offense is a little weaker. I still think though with Aaron Rodgers, the offense will be strong enough. It'll be a top 12-ish offense, maybe even top 10. The defense is the best Aaron Rodgers has had since at least like 2010 when he won the Super Bowl, funnily enough.
Meh.
And I'm expecting that to get them some victories here again in a weak division. So 12-5 for the Packers as the 3 seed. And then I had a tie actually for the number 1 and number 2 seed. Both teams at 13-4, but I have the team that wins the head-to-head matchup as the number 1 seed. So the number 2 seed, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, at 13-4, and of course that means I have the Rams, the Los Angeles Rams, at 13-4 as the 1 seed because they win the
Sheesh.
head-to-head matchup. I think it's between the Bucks and the Rams for the number 1 seed race. I think the Bucks have an easier schedule. I think the Rams have probably a little more continuity and better coaching, I would say, because of Sean McVay. I think the Rams have had the advantage in head-to-head matchups. And again, some of my concerns with Tom Brady right now. So
Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I don't. I'm not concerned with his ability. I'm a little concerned if he really is happy, quite honestly, and if he's feeling okay. I know that sounds super dumb to suggest as a like
Maybe
weakness,
just
but
send him a Twitter DM if he's
I
okay.
should. I really should. I
Tom, are
should
you okay?
send him that.
We're just
But
checking on you.
I'm not sure. I watched that press conference. He looks sick. I don't know. There's something wrong with him, I think.
You haven't looked this sick since 28-3, Tom.
He didn't look sick. He looked angry. But 13-4 for the Bucks still. I mean, that Brady's too good. The defense is too good. The team is too good for them to be worse. And then the Rams, kind of the same thing. 13-4. I think they get the 1 seed again with more chemistry with Stafford. So that would leave the Rams with the bye. The matchups being the 7 seed Vikings at the 2 seed Bucks, the 6 seeded Saints at the 3 seeded Packers, and the 5 seeded Niners at the 4 seeded Eagles.
Wow. Wow. Some crazy stuff. Again, I agree with some, don't agree with some. Same thing. But now it's time to
For
get
Lenny's
into
prediction.
for my predictions. It's my turn. Okay. So the Bears, 3-14. Bears aren't very talented, really. They're similar to the Texans. They just don't have anything, really. I mean, Justin Fields is someone. Darnell Mooney looked all right last year. Looked pretty good. They don't really have anybody. They just don't. They lost Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack on the defensive line and Eddie Goldman on the defensive line. Their strength of their defense was that, and it's gone, just obliterated. I don't know. They don't really have anything to write home about. The Falcons I have at 4-13. I considered raising them a little higher than this, but then
Wow.
I thought about it a little. No, it was like a win. It was like a win or two. Like not really that much because they went 7-10 last year. But then I thought about some more, and I'm like, I think a lot of that had to do with Matt Ryan. I just think Matt Ryan elevated this team a lot last year, and they just don't have. They haven't really replaced anything sufficiently to expect anything more than four wins, really. I have the Seahawks at 4-13. I have like 2 of their wins coming from the Niners matchups. Here, let me see. Yeah, I had 2. Week 2, I have
You
them
think
beating
they
us.
sweep the
And
Niners?
yeah, no, I actually have them sweeping us. I don't know what it is. They have this like thing.
Are the Seahawks
Where,
the team you least want to play in the playoffs?
yes, I would. If they played us in the playoffs, I would be. Oh my god, we're gonna lose. Like I would think we are gonna lose, even if they like trotted off like Geno Smith or whatever. I would be like, dang, Charles Cross is about to like have a career game against Nick Bosa. Yeah, the Seahawks. I mean, like similar to what I said about the Falcons, they just lost their franchise quarterback. The Seahawks won 7 games last year too. We've been saying forever, wow, like the Seahawks are only getting carried by Russell Wilson. Well, the rugs have pulled under them now. I mean, they don't even have him anymore. Jamal Adams, huge disappointment. I don't know. They just don't really have anything to ring home about other than maybe some potential future guys like Charles Cross, like I mentioned. The Lions I had at 5-12. I think the Lions are being a little overrated right now. It's kind of weird.
Ooh.
I know I understand why the Lions are being overrated because vibes. They had a lot of contested games last year, but you gotta remember like their strengths offensively are not strengths like for a team that result in wins. Offensive line is obviously a very good strength of theirs, and it's one of the best in football. But having a really good O line doesn't really necessarily result in wins unless your skill positions are very good. It's a symbiotic kind of thing, and Jameis Williams ain't going to play for half the year. Amon-Ra St. Brown is really good, I think, but he's not going to be, he's your only guy really, other than TJ Hawkinson for most of the year. And Jared Goff is still Jared Goff, along with just not great offensive coaching. And their defense is just a disaster. I mean, I think people just have to understand the Lions are still at the point where they're not going to be good yet. They might
They're
have that
getting better,
five-game
but
win
they're not
season,
there.
but people are already thinking they're going to take that step. And I'm like, no, hold up. Their
Next year.
defense is still atrocious. Next year, okay? So I have 12, the Panthers at 6-11. I think Baker's going to win week 1. I think everyone's been saying that. I feel like everyone thinks that's going to happen. As he should. He got treated terribly in that whole situation. But I think the Panthers are going to be a sneaky good team this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they went further than this. It's just, for me, the coaching isn't really there on both sides of the ball. And just, I don't know, their skill positions are a little underwhelming, if I'm being completely honest. DJ Moore is really nice, but for him to be the only real contributor I can see being meaningful as a receiver other than CMC, which we don't know who's going to be healthy, is just a question mark for me. Their defense is really nice up front. I like their front seven, but generally not super talented secondary. It's just not like it's not good enough to carry this team to anything more than 6 to 7 wins, in my opinion, if the offense doesn't keep track, which I don't think it will. The Giants, I have at 7-10. I think, like I mentioned before, I think they're going to take a step offensively. I don't know if Daniel Jones is going to be that guy. I certainly see how he could be a contributor to this offense, but Kenny Golladay has just been a complete joke. I mean, have you seen like the Twitter thing that he had today?
No, I have. He's apparently been awful.
Yes, I mean, part of this, when I put 7-10, I was like, yeah, maybe Kenny Golladay, he gets back. So like now I'm considering bringing it down, but since I'm like already into it, I might as well just explain my angle here. Defensively, they lose Patrick Graham, which we talked about earlier, but I believe they got Don Martindale as their new defensive coordinator. Am I wrong about that, or am I right?
They did.
They did, which is one of the best defensive coordinators in
No,
football
he's
for
awesome.
a long time. So I think that'll even out, considering they lost some talent in the secondary. I think that'll be about generally the same. But I think their offensive talent is going to elevate because Joe Judge was just a joke. Jason Garrett was a joke as offensive coordinator and a head coach. But Brian Dable is clearly at least a decent offensive coordinator. And I think it'll be enough for them to be a respectable team. Maybe not like I think it'll be similar to like how we felt about the Seahawks, where we're like, yeah, okay, whatever. But they won a couple games. They won a decent amount of games. But yeah, I have Cardinals at 10, the 10th seed, 7-10. Like you said, I don't know where this Cardinals hype is coming from, really. The Kyler Murray extension was just a complete disaster. Like I don't know if I've ever seen an extension go so terribly. I mean, like,
And they
really,
haven't
like,
even played a game yet.
they haven't played a game yet. I mean, the DeAndre Hopkins suspension. I mean, the talent they lost defensively, Marcus Golden, Chandler Jones, too, that their main contributors defensively last year. And their strengths of their D line, if we're going to be completely honest, J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones, Marcus Golden, those were their guys last year. They got up front, they were nasty, and they lost 2 of their guys. It's not a great look defensively. And offensively, I just don't have a lot of faith in Cliff Kingsbury and this coaching staff to elevate the talent that they have. And even though they're all right, they're still pretty good offensively, it's not going to be good enough to elevate them to more than 7 wins, I don't think. I have the Cowboys 8-9. I think this is like an 8-8 season for them, but I couldn't put them 8-8 because obviously, they don't they don't have that many games anymore. Like I wanted so bad to go 8-1 just for a joke, but like I was like, nah, it's fine. They lose a lot of talent offensively. People aren't talking about this a lot. Tyron Smith, Connor McGovern, Lael Collins. You lose Amari Cooper, and that's 4 starters right there who were some of your top guys on not only your offense but your team. And it's just hard for me to see them bouncing back after that, especially how good the Eagles had an offseason. They got 2 wins from the Eagles last year in that way. So it's just hard for me to see the angle for them to be a really good team again.
Right.
I really like Micah Parsons, obviously. I really like a lot of the players they have. I just don't think the talent overall is there anymore. I have Washington 9-8. This is a little bit of a surprise. It's just a tiny bit.
I can see it.
obviously, respect to I don't remember his name, but the running back, whatever happened with that,
Brian
Brian
Robinson.
Robinson.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I
terrible.
just read it. Apparently,
But
they're non-life threatening, which is great.
okay, that is great to hear. But yeah, I think for Washington, they just added Jahan Dotson, which I'm a fan of. And the receiving core and the skill positions are actually very good. If you look at it, they're actually pretty better than people give them credit for. It's just quarterback, man. Carson Wentz. It's like he had 9 wins last year, and I feel similarly that I did with the Colts. I think the Cowboys and the Washington are going to switch. It's either going to be 9-8 for Washington or 8-9 for Cowboys. Like it's going to switch either one. I think they're going to
Yeah,
fight
I
for a
can see
playoff
that.
spot, and ultimately neither are going to get in. But I just chose Washington over just because I just like the vibes better than Cowboys.
I
Cowboys
don't
just
like
have
either
lost so.
vibes really.
I just think the Cowboys have lost so much, and Washington hasn't really lost a lot. They lost Brandon Sheriff, but offensive line wise,
That's
it's
no,
not
I can
really as much of a
sure.
big deal to lose one starter as opposed to three. Um, Vikings, I have at the seventh seed. I have them going 9-8. For I want you to understand for the for the NFC here, this is a top heavy conference for me. There are two 9-8 teams here who made the playoffs, and past the sixth seed, it's just that's the upper echelon. I think it's always been like that. I think it's going to reflect in record total, where as opposed to the AFC, where everyone's pretty good generally. It's just some people had to make it, some people didn't. The Vikings, we talk about Kevin O'Connell. He's going to make a difference. And Kirk Cousins, they've always been that borderline team, but the coaching and that defense has always been the thing to hold them back. They just got Zadarius Smith, I believe, right?
They did.
Which is huge. No one's really talking about that. And they got, what's his name? Smith, Hunter. It's something, maybe. I don't know. They got that
Danielle
other
Hunter.
DN. Danielle Hunter. I mean, they have Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith on both sides of the ball now. And defensively, that's huge considering they didn't have either. They didn't have their D line was not like this anymore. They have two dominant edge guys, and in a where they lost a lot of one possession games, they now have two edge guys who are going to get after the quarterback effectively in crunch time, which is huge, I think. And I think it's going to get them to the playoffs. The Saints, I have 9-8. I think they had a lot of quality additions, and I honestly think they could be better than this. I just put them here because I think, quite honestly, Jameis Winston, I'm just not sold on him. I just don't think as the quarterback is gonna de-elevate the team as Jameis did with the Bucks before Brady got there. It's gonna be a similar situation to that. I don't think he's gonna be bad by any means. I just think sometimes when they go against some upper echelon teams, I think it's just not gonna be enough. I think the Bengals are like they have a not a tough schedule, but it's harder than you'd think based on like what they had last year. Um, yeah, like you said, defensively, they're really stacked. They have a really nice roster generally. I just think the quarterback's going to take away from the overall roster. And I don't think coaching's good enough quite yet to elevate them past that. I don't think Dennis Allen is as much of an impact as Sean Payton. But yeah, I have the fifth seed, the San Francisco 49ers, as 11-6. So every single team now is 11 plus wins. I think these five teams
We both have them.
they are
Both
quite
all
clearly the top echelon teams. The Niners, the only thing with them is that O line and the quarterback. I've always said I've never been a Trey Lance guy. I think everyone that knows me and what I'm about knows that. Trey Lance he's just not there yet. At this point, he's just not that guy. But I thought about it, and I still don't think Trey Lance is going to be that good this year. But I thought about how Jimmy Garoppolo really wasn't that good for us either, and how that really didn't affect win total when he was healthy. So as long as they play within the system, like they make sure that Trey Lance doesn't like have total control of his offense in terms of like he is the reason they win games because he won't be like Jimmy Garoppolo was, right? We're gonna be fine. I think it's gonna be a good year for the Niners. I think it's gonna be a fun year, but I think it's gonna be also like a very roller coaster. It's gonna be like, wow, that was great, Trey Lance. It's like, why are you even on the field? Like, I think it's gonna be a similar type of year for that. The Packers, I have the fourth seed. I have them 11-6 as well. Losing Devontae Adams is huge, obviously. Um, he was the best receiver in football for them. He was absolutely electric. And generally, just after last year, I think I'm a little lower on them just because of all the vibes with the team right now. Rodgers is still Rodgers. He's incredible. I think they did a really good job adding just defensive talent this offseason. Like that defense is just wow. Just and they have really nice starters on every like level of football. Like defensive line is just stacked. DNs are stacked. Outside backers are stacked. Inside backers stacked. I mean, like everywhere you look, it's just
Secondary.
really good player, Pro Bowl player, All Pro player, and it's incredible what they did there. I think this is going to be a very run play action offense. You're going to see Rodgers doing a really good job of leading the backers a certain way to open up the middle of the field. You're going to see a lot of more meticulous of an offense, even more than last
I
year.
like that
It's not
word usage.
meticulous. I think it's similar to the Chiefs, actually. I didn't go as depth, but it's going to be a more like, what's it called? Timing kind of offense. It's going to be
Yeah.
more like RPO, whatever. And I think they'll be fine offensively, but I think losing Devontae Adams as that big time playmaker is going to be enough to not have them be a 13-win team anymore. But I still think they're going to be really good, obviously. 11 wins, they might even get 12. I have the Rams as the third seed as 12-5. I think the Rams are really weird to me because they lost so many starters and they replaced them in other areas. So like defensively, right? You lose Eric Weddle and safety position. You already lost John Johnson the year before. So it's like, well, what are we doing here? Corner wise, you lose Darius Williams a year ago. Wait, did they lose him this year or last year?
They lose him this year.
Yeah, this year. Sorry, I meant to say this year. You lose Von Miller. He was huge for them last year. You lose was OBJ, Andrew Whitworth, all these starters, right? But they did a great job replacing, I think, and finding holes that they need to fill. Last year, they had a really big problem of in the middle of the field just getting torn up, and they added Bobby Wagner, the greatest, like not the greatest, but like one of the best cleanup guys in football for under the middle.
One of the
Like you're
best
not going to get a lot.
linebackers of all time at that.
Exactly. Yes, on that. And where they had strengths last year, they lost, but where they had their weaknesses last year, they added, is the way I describe it. But, obviously those weaknesses from the strength they had last year are going to be there. But I still think they're going to be really good. I think their offense is going to be just electric again, and I think Stafford's going to have a career year. So, yeah, I have them barely beating up the Niners, even though I still have the Niners sweeping, I think. No, I have them splitting. But anyway, I have the Eagles as my second seed. This is not mainly due, but partly due to the fact of their schedule is pretty light. If you look at it, it's not bad. They have a lot of very winnable games. They don't have a lot of like grinded out matches. Let me just go through the schedule real quick. The Lions, the Vikings, the Washington, Jags, Cardinals, Cowboys, Steelers, Texans. I mean, these are all games that I would expect them to win or at least be very competitive in, right?
Yeah.
They're all like, it's very easy schedule. And last year, the whole knock on them was that they had the easy schedule. Well, they have it again, and they just added more. So where's the problem really? I don't see it in that way. And, they added a lot of talent this year. They have one of the most talented defensive lines I think I've seen in my life. That's 2019 with the Niners. I think it's a similar kind of build, man. I mean, they just have dominant edges, just guys that can keep filling in. They're going to be fresh because they're going to keep rotating guys. I mean, like, I don't know. They're just stacked defensively. It's just Jalen Hurts, honestly. It's similar with the Niners, though, where it's like they have so much talent everywhere else. I'm not worried. I'm not that worried about it, considering that their schedule is also super light. I think this is going to be a really good team going into the season, and I still feel that way right now. I think it's going to be a really fun year for the Eagles, considering they haven't had like a year like this since 2017. I have the Bucks 13-4 as my one seed. Akeem Hicks, they just added. No one's talking about it. He's tearing it up in camp. I mean, secondary is still a little bit of a question mark. I think they added James Bradbury.
No, they added Logan Ryan.
Sorry, I don't know what it is with the Giants corners last year, but they're all James Bradbury. To me. I don't know why. They're just all James Bradbury.
They're all the same.
And they all feel like the same player, right? I don't know. They all feel
like
very
solid sounds.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. They added Logan Ryan. I love Antoine Winfield, Levante David, Devin White, Keanu Neal. I mean, defensively, they're still stacked. They still have Todd Bowles. No, I mean,
You
Okay,
were
he was
telling
just
me
a name I
yesterday
threw
in
out
the
there.
Discord that he was like you were
He was a
nicknamed.
name that I threw out just now. I don't think he's going to be like very good this year anyway. But anyway, their defense is really good. But yes, I don't think he's that good. He's going to be that good. Offensively, you still have Brady. The only thing that people are like getting on is the offensive line, which I'll address it.
Yeah.
The center position is important because you need to be able to communicate with the O line, the protection, and you need to be able to communicate with the line, double teams, and generally where the quarterback's going to be like how the play is going to go. But I'm not that worried about the center being out because Tom Brady is one of the best, just like minds in football. I'm sure that Ryan Jensen didn't even have as big of a role to deal with that, and the center that they have coming up is probably going to be taught everything very fast. I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal. And their left guard, obviously, they lose Stinney, but I don't think Stinney was even good to begin with. So, like, losing him, like, yeah, sucks to lose another starter, but, like, he was their weakest position anyway. So you go from, like, weak to, like, a little weaker, right? So, like, I mean, we already thought – I didn't even think he was going to be good anyway. So it's not, like, a big concern for me. Yeah, I think this team is just really good top to bottom again. And I don't know. It's just Brady,
You
It's
think
Brady.
Brady still cares and he completely wants to be there and he's fully
I
bought
think
in?
yes. I don't know why you're like insinuating otherwise.
Uh,
Yes,
no,
I
I'm
do
just
think
trying to bait
yes,
you
yes.
into saying stuff. It's fine. No, I can completely see it. I like those predictions a lot. So your matchups would be
Okay.
Eagles, Vikings, right? And then
Yeah.
Rams, Saints, and then Niners, Packers.
Yes. Niners Packers again. Ooh.
What a fun game
Yeah.
that would be. All right, let's
Okay.
get to the playoff predictions. You just want to go round by round here
Yes.
for
We'll
both of
just go round
us?
by round. So yeah, you go wild card and then I'll do my wild card.
Yeah. All right, so my wild card matchups. I'll start us off with the number 7 seeded Raiders at the number 2 seed Chargers. I think
Mm-hmm.
the winner of this game is going to be whoever wins the receiver corner matchup. And I think personnel wise, the Raiders probably win the matchup. But I think the pass rush of the Chargers will result in the Chargers corners winning the matchup, if that makes sense.
I
So
know
you
what you mean talent
you
wise.
bring in
Yeah, but
Khalil Mack alongside Joey Bosa. I think that can give the Raiders a lot of issues. I think the problem for the Chargers a bit last year was they were a one-dimensional pass rush, but now they aren't. They're stronger in run defense too, and the Raiders absolutely gashed them in that last Week 18 game to get to the playoffs. So
yes.
combine that, making the Raiders a bit more one-dimensional, making them have to throw in pressure situations. Derek Carr did struggle with pressure last year. Now pressure is a
Okay, buddy. We
volatile
can talk
thing,
about that.
but it's something that is noteworthy, I think. And then I look at offensively, I think the Chargers' offensive line's more equipped to handle the Raiders' pass rush than the other way around, as well as the fact that I think Justin Herbert can have a lot of success as he did late in that Week 18 game. So I think I think the Chargers win that game. I'll say
Yeah.
27-20. I think it's a close game. Ravens at Colts, a 2000 style matchup here
Ooh.
between two former MVP quarterbacks. It pains me to do this because Matt Ryan's been so good in the playoffs for a lot of his career, especially in 2012 and 2016. But I think the guy that's going to win it is Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. I think I'm
Ooh.
going to say
Yes.
they probably eke it out 23-20, 23-21, a close game. But I think the Colts weren't great last year with covering tight ends. I think their linebacker depth is a bit concerning at times, and I think the Ravens with the 3 tight end sets they can run can cause issues. I think the Ravens defense can match up with the Colts weapons. I think the Ravens are a bit stronger than the Colts when it comes to stopping the run. So I think the Ravens, from that perspective, will be able to have some success defensively. And I think the Ravens, judging by what happened in the game last year, has still shaken me a little bit with all the comeback and with Lamar and all of that. So I'm going to take the Ravens to win there, unfortunately. And then the 5 seed Chiefs at the 4 seed Bengals. Last year, the Bengals beat the Chiefs twice. Last year, we saw for the first time a team beat the Chiefs not because of schematical or line play matchups, rather than a team simply was more explosive than the Chiefs were. And that's what the
Yeah,
Bengals were
no, it's
last
true.
year.
It's
And
true.
that's what they are again. And I think the Bengals beat them twice in the season again. I think the Bengals are a more complete team. I think the Bengals have a better defense. I think the Bengals have a better offense. I think the Bengals have just as effective of a quarterback for their system. And I think in this game, we're going to see again some of the losses the Chiefs have sustained at corner cost them. Some of the lack of pass rush outside of Chris Jones cost them. And I think we're going to see without Tyreek Hill, them struggle to keep up explosive wise with the Bengals, who I think can be efficient and explosive, whereas the Chiefs this year I think are going to have to be more efficient because they won't be as explosive. And on the road, I don't think that's a great formula. So I'm going to take the Bengals to win a high scoring 34-30 game. And then for the NFC, the 7 seeded Minnesota Vikings at the 2 seeded Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I've got to go real quickly here. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to win this game. They're just too good, I think, and they match up well. Their secondary is deep. Their secondary is, I think, capable of taking the Vikings receivers and not shutting them down, but forcing them to lower averages than they usually hit. Their pass rush is great. Their run defense is great. They have an overall a great defense, and I think offensively they're very strong. I think my next matchup will be the 6 seed Saints at the 3 seed Packers. I think the Saints absolutely destroyed the Packers last year. I
They
think they're
did.
going
It
to
was
do
week
it
one.
again, honestly. I think the Saints are going to go into Lambeau Field and win. I think the Saints, with their defense, are very strong. I
Poor
think the
Rodgers.
Saints can slow down their run game and force them to be one dimensional. And I don't think they've got the weapons this year to handle that. I think the Saints secondary will be too much. Saints win 23-17. And then for the final game, your San Francisco 49ers at the Philadelphia
Yes.
Eagles. The San Francisco 49ers are going to win. They beat the Eagles last year. These teams try to play the same way, but the 49ers are just better at it, I think, because they have better coaching, and I think their playoff experience will be the difference here. So I'm going to take the Niners to win 17-14.
All right. I think I'm just going to be here for a bit. So I will explain my predictions here, even without Ultra. I will explain my predictions. And for the first game, it should be the Colts versus the Dolphins. And this is what I was hinting at before. I think the Dolphins are this team that are just not built to be a playoff team. They're built to beat regular teams who don't have anything special and are generally just not like a Super Bowl team. I don't think they're built that way. Not with the quarterback situation. I think once you see Tua having to make harder throws than normal, having to be in pressure more, having to be in these highest pressure moments, it's going to be a disaster. And I think when they play the Colts, it's going to be this team where it's just like, I don't think we can do anything. Like, I just don't think it's going to be a fun matchup. I think it's going to be one of those blowout games where you're just like, we have to grind it out. We have to grind it out game. Like, for the Dolphins, I think it's going to be a blowout for the Colts, and it's going to be like, wow, look, Matt Ryan is still good in the playoffs. That's crazy. Even though people have this weird narrative about him not being good in the playoffs, and I just think it's going to be tough for the Dolphins. I
Because of
just don't
one
think they're
game.
built.
But
I just
anyway.
don't think they're built to be a playoff team. I don't think they're built to play against playoff teams, and I think the Colts are going to have it together by now. I think their rookies and their guys that are going to contribute now are going to be at the top of their power or the top of their game going into this game, and I just think it's going
All right,
to be
Lenny, can you
embarrassing.
speed it up here real quickly because I've got to go pretty soon.
Yeah,
But I'm not saying to just say one word, but like just speed it up like a
yeah,
tad.
I get what you mean. Chargers Raiders. I have the Chargers winning because I think the
You
Chargers
have
are
the
going to be.
Chargers winning? Wow.
I think the Chargers are going to be a much more complete team by the end of the season, where I think the Raiders are going to be a consistent team throughout the whole season. they have a lot of new pieces, so I think it's going to be just explosive in the playoffs. I have the Bills beating the Chiefs. I think the Bills are just
Finally do it.
this. I think that I think it's like grudge match, right? Like this is the third time they played in 2 years or something like that, and they're just gonna want to just kill the Chiefs at this point, considering last year, and they're just gonna win. And the NFC, I have the Niners versus the Packers. I'm just going to be short with this one. The Niners own the Packers. They just absolutely own the Packers. I'm sorry. I don't care if Trey Lance is playing, if freaking Nick Mullins is playing, 199 is playing, pick 199. They're going to win this game in the playoffs. It's going to happen. Saints versus the Rams. The Saints I considered having possibly winning this game just because of their defense. I think it was going to give a lot of tough matchups for the Rams, but I think they're going to be good enough. The Rams are going to be good enough offensively to off balance that. And I think Jameis Winston is just going to be a tough spot for him to be in a playoff game for the first time in his career as a starter. Even though I think that Michael Thomas versus Jalen Ramsey is going to be absolute popcorn to watch in the playoffs if that happens. I don't know. Sorry. Eagles versus the Vikings. I have the Eagles winning this game, even though I think the Vikings are actually built in a way where they could give them some problems. I think the only issue here is that the Vikings O-line is just not going to be able to handle the Eagles defensive line. I just think they're not going to be able to get a good ground game running. And I think they're going to be built a lot of play action this year. Kevin O'Connell's scheme is going to be a lot more play action than last year, where they would just be empty set. And I just think they're not going to get that ball rolling. And I think you have to win the line of scrimmage to win football games, quite honestly. And I think the Eagles are built to dominate on both fronts.
All right, so what would your divisional matchups be then?
Here, give me a second. I have the Bills with the Colts, Ravens versus the Chargers, Eagles versus the Rams, and Niners versus the Bucks.
All right, that's a nice set of matchups. I like it. All right, so my first matchup, Bengals Chargers in the divisional round. I think these two teams played last year, and the Chargers absolutely flattened them. I think they both got better, but I think the same thing's going to happen. I still think the Bengals are a little bit more flawed at tackle than they are inside on the offensive line. And I think the Chargers are stronger at edge than they are in the interior defensive line. So I think that plays into the Chargers' benefactor a little bit there. I also think they have the corners to slow down these receivers more than most. Not shut down, but slow down. Kind of like they did the Raiders the week before, and I think that'll help them against another talented set of receivers. And then offensively, I think they can really move the ball up and down the field with their passing game against the Bengals secondary that I still think can be taken advantage of a little bit, and a pretty strong and a pretty strong offensive line. Excuse me. I think the Chiefs are going to score in that wild card game. I think the Chargers will be able to score again, but this time with a better defense, I think they'll be able to slow down the Bengals offense more. So I've got the Chargers winning that and advancing to the AFC Championship. Other matchup, 6-seeded Ravens at the 1-seed Bills. We saw this a couple of years ago in the playoffs. The Bills and the Ravens were competing for a while. Lamar Jackson went out, and the Bills kind of ran away with it from there. The Bills, I think, are just a tough matchup because of their defense, and it's going to be hard for me to see. They're better against tight ends than the Colts are. They're so good in the secondary. They're so strong in terms of their offensive balance almost, in terms of the quarterback run and the passing game. And I think that can give the Ravens a little bit of issues defensively. So I think the Bills are going to win here. I'll say 24-17. It'll be a competitive game. My other matchups, the 6-seeded Saints at the 1-seeded Rams. A Saints run comes to an end here. I think the Rams have more offensively than the Packers do, which is why I think they win simply. I think they're able to hit a couple more big plays in the passing game. I think the Saints defense kind of crumbles a little bit towards the ends like the Niners did at the end of the last year's NFC title game. And because they're on the field so long, because their offense is stalling. And that's what I ultimately see happening. So I'm going to take the Rams there 27-20. And then in the other game, the 49ers at the Bucks. I think this would be the best game of this weekend. It's Tom Brady against his the team he grew up rooting for, where he lives.
Yes.
I think there's going to be an implosion of some sorts for the Bucks at some point. And even though this matchup favors them profusely, I have a feeling the 49ers win it. I just do.
All right.
I think it's
Okay.
gonna happen, man.
Okay.
I think Kyle Shanahan is good enough as a schemer to bait some of the younger Tampa Bay defenders and kind of get the better of them. Like I think he could
Oh
have his way
man.
with Devin White a bit in a similar way he kind of did with Micah Parsons.
D'Amico Ryans is gonna outplay Brady. Is that what you're
And
saying?
then the weakness of the Bucks offensive line is the interior, and I think the Niners with a stronger interior rush this year will be able to exploit that more than years past. And you combine that with, I think, their ability to use the short passing game as the extension of the run game, then they're very good at that. Might be able to have some more of success against the Bucks than I think we think could happen. The Bucks weren't particularly great at terms of stopping that all of last year. And I think there's going to be an upset, and I think this is the upset. So I'm going to take the 49ers and Trey
Jeez.
Lance to end Tom Brady's career
Oh my
27
God.
to 24.
How sad would that be?
NFC Championship games and the AFC Championship games, Chargers at Bills and 49ers at Rams again.
Wow, another Niners versus Rams championship game. All right. When does that happen? They repeated the championship game generally. I can't think of one. On top of
Manning
my
and
head.
Brady never repeated, did they? No.
I don't think so. Anyway,
Maybe
my
the
picks
Cowboys and
here.
Niners did it.
Oh, they definitely did it. They did it for like 3 years straight or something like that. Anyway, my guys, I got the first game is the Bills versus the Colts. Colts, I loved you. I wanted you to go farther, but the Bills are a brick wall, and you just had to be the first team to play them. I mean, Josh Allen was incredible in the playoffs last year. I don't expect that to be any different this year. I just think it's just too much. It's just too much. Their secondary is too good. Their pass rush is too good. Their everything is just it's just overwhelming for the Colts. So I don't think it's going to be a blowout in terms of like an embarrassing blowout, but I think it's going to be a heavy win for the Bills here. The Ravens versus the Chargers is my next game. I think this is going to be a grinded out game where it's like, geez, like who's going to like the similar to the Bills Chiefs game, but not as high scoring. I think it's just going to be like that similar vibe. Like these are the same level team. Like this is like, geez, I don't know who's going to win this game. And ultimately, I think the Ravens are going to come out on top because I think
Wow.
Mark Andrews is just going to go off. I don't think they have a I don't think I have a big body to quite honestly match up against him. I
He's
don't
going
think
to
they
own
can
Derwin
really.
James.
I think it's going to be one of those games where just like Andrews is like it's just crazy. It's like a kind of Gronk kind of performance in the playoffs. Like wow. And defensively, I think the Ravens have a good personnel to match up against the Chargers' strength, and that's their receiving core, Justin Herbert. They have a good enough secondary to where I think they give them some real problems. And I think the Ravens are going to barely win on like a Justin Tucker field goal or something to clinch out a win in the show that Lamar can make it to the championship game and can win in the playoffs. I got the Eagles versus the Rams next game. This is an interesting matchup because you got a really nice O line versus Aaron Donald. You have AJ Brown versus Jalen Ramsey. You have a lot of really interesting matchups in that way. But ultimately, this is going to shock you. I have the
Eagles,
Eagles
huh?
winning. I
Yeah.
have the Eagles winning this game, and it's a similar reason that I had last for my last thing. I think they're just going to crush the line of scrimmage. I think the Rams got worse in the O line, and I think they're going to give Stafford some problems. I know Stafford isn't necessarily he's not like afraid of he's good under pressure, but I think generally O line is just going to crush the defensive line enough considering it's Aaron Donald, right? To where
Eagles win the line
they're
of
going to win.
scrimmage.
It's going to be I think they're going to win the line of scrimmage again. This is how they're going to win games, both sides of the ball. It's so important, especially with a young quarterback like Jalen Hurts, to do that. And I think they're going to ultimately advance to the NFC Championship game because of it. And yeah, I think the Bucks versus Niners my next game. I just don't. I just like you said that Trey Lance is going to end Brady's career. I can't see it. I
That
can't see
doesn't
Trey
sound right,
Lance. I
does it?
can't see Trey Lance beating Tom Brady in the Super in any playoff game. At least
Ever.
now. No, not ever. I mean, like he could. Like, I mean, considering he's probably going to retire this year, probably ever. But like, if he played next year, I wouldn't be like opposed to it or anything. But anyway, um, yeah, that's literally my reason. I just cannot see Trey Lance beating Tom Brady in the playoffs. Like it just doesn't compute in my brain. It just doesn't make sense.
I'll say this real quickly for that game
Okay.
though. Because of that, and I know it sounds weird, Brady does lose to bad quarterbacks a lot in the playoffs. Like
Nick
relative to
Foles.
Jake Plummer, Nick Foles, Mark Sanchez, even 2007 Eli Manning, 2015 Peyton Manning. It's happened before.
He
Uh,
beat Tim Tebow though. He did do
no,
that.
not Tim Tebow. All right. So your championship games: Bills at
Ravens,
Ravens, and
Bills.
then
Yep.
uh, Eagles at Bucks.
Yep.
So both 2-1 matchups there.
Mm-hmm.
My AFC Championship, the Chargers at the Bills. I think the best team in the AFC this year is the Buffalo Bills. I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
Chargers fans. I think they're going to have a magical season.
Oh, so
I
sad.
just think the Bills, with their defense, are able to lock down the Chargers receivers here. I think their pass rush being improved will help in this game. And I think their offense, I think the one flaw the Chargers still do have a bit is the quarterback run, funnily enough. And the Bills' strength offensively is probably their quarterback run game. Honestly, that or their deep passing game. And I think Josh Allen has a monster 2015 Cam Newton NFC Championship type game where he's like 250, 3 TDs, 150, another TD or two. It's a monster game like that. And the Bills and the Chargers season and go back to the Super Bowl for the first time since 1993.
Jeez.
The NFC Championship is a repeat of last year. In the same stadium, the San Francisco 49ers
No.
the Giants, the number one seeded team in the
Oh.
NFC, the defending champion, Los Angeles.
Oh.
Another Kyle McVay matchup, the two best coaches in the NFL. Lenny, since I always do a prediction the day after the Super Bowl of who I think will be next year. And so this year, the day after the Bills, or the day after the Bengals and Rams played, I said the Super Bowl, my early prediction, since the day after the Super Bowl was Bills-Rams.
Uh-huh.
I think we're going to get another NFC West, AFC East matchup. I think it's going to be the 49ers who win. I think the 49ers,
God, bro.
I'm buying in. Trey Lance is better for this team in this game, in this moment, than Jimmy Garoppolo is. He's better as a runner. He can extend plays better. He is more likely to hit a big play in a big moment, and I think he does here. There's going to be a moment. The Niners are up 23-20. They are trying to desperately bleed the clock and close the game and not give the ball back to Stafford. They're going to be in a 3rd and 9. Lance is going to hit Debo for 15 yards down the field, and he's going to close the game like that. And it's going to be the throw Jimmy could not make. And the Niners are going to go to the Rams Stadium and win the NFC Championship, and they're going to go to the Super Bowl and play the Bills. There you go.
That would be crazy though, because they would have went to Super Bowl 3 times out of 4 years, or they would have made the NFC Championship 3 games out of 4 years, and the Super Bowl 2 out of those times. Oh man! All right, so my turn. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry. Who did they beat in the wild card? The Niners in that?
Eagles, then Bucks, then Rams.
I don't know, man. I just can't. I mean, like, I physically cannot think of Trey Lance even having the potential to hold up a Lombardi this year. As a Niner fan, I just can't.
Probably couldn't have said the same thing about.
I mean, you can though. I mean, they can. It can happen. I mean, look at that.
Kaepernick got there.
Kaepernick did get there. That's true. Anyway, my matchup is the 1 and 2 seed. Both of them. I know it's really boring, but I have the Ravens playing the Bills. I think the Ravens are going to win. I think the Ravens are going to make the Super Bowl. I think the Ravens are going to make the Super Bowl this year. I really do. I think it's like the Bills are getting all this momentum right now, and the Ravens are this team that like nobody's really counting in as a legit Super Bowl contender. And I don't see why they can't be. They're elite at everything they need to be elite at, besides receiver and I guess edge. And edge isn't even a huge concern because the defense is just so stacked. And receiver isn't as big as of a deal because they have Mark Andrews and such a legendary quarterback and getting time and elevating the receivers. I think that their O line is going to be equipped to handle their pass rush. I think that Mark Andrews, similar to what I said before, is a good matchup for how they play, even though they have some good cover backers. I think it's a better matchup than having really good receivers in this instance. And I think the Lamar, just being Lamar, is going to give them problems defensively as a runner. I can. It's going to be another tough game. I think it's going to be another grinded out game. But the Ravens are used to this playing into the AFC North. They know how to win these kind of games. I think they win this game, and I think they advance to the Super Bowl, showing everybody that Lamar can indeed win the playoffs, winning 3 in a row,
Beating Josh Allen to do so.
and beating Josh Allen. And sorry, Bills fans, this would be awful for you guys considering last year. Another championship.
This would honestly be a traumatizing loss for Bills fans.
I know, even worse than last year. Maybe not even worse than last year.
Supposed to win it.
Yep. They were supposed to win this one. They weren't necessarily supposed to win last year. Bucs Eagles. I think the Eagles are just. I don't know. I can't see we saw it last year with the quarterback matchup.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. They don't have Nick Foles this time around.
This is legitimately the worst matchup for the Eagles.
Yeah, this is like, wow, you guys got it this far, but then you ended up with Brady coming at the end. And you're like, oh, well, I almost wanted to do like Eagles versus Ravens to have the Bird Bowl,
That'd be awesome.
The Bird Bowl versus the 2 running quarterbacks too. That'd be great. But, I just couldn't do it. Nick Sirianni gets to the NFC Championship game second year. But yeah, I mean, great year for them. They got to deal with, Jalen Hurts is their guy at that point, right? If he makes the NFC Championship game.
But it's going to be another Brady Ravens playoff game. The last game of his career.
That would be all. I mean, just narrative wise, right?
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
Lamar versus Brady. All right, so I just want to read this out real quick. The NFL Top 100, the 20 through 11 came out today.
I saw that.
So do you see the list?
I'm looking at it right now.
So at number 20 is J.C. Jackson.
That's
19
crazy,
Deebo Samuel. 18 Shaq Leonard. 17 Justin Jefferson. 16 Micah Parsons. 15 Tyreek Hill. 14 Trent Williams.
Boo!
13 is Josh Allen. And 12 Derrick Henry. 11 Myles Garrett.
I like
Seems like two players are out of place as much there, not being in the top 10. That means Trayvon Diggs is Trayvon Diggs in the top 10?
Dude, he is. No way. Wait, is he? No, he's no, he's way back.
Oh no, he got ranked.
He was like 33. Yeah, no, I was gonna say like that's all right. So I can't believe Mark Andrews got 32 and he had the best tight end season. Like not the best, but one of the
one of the best. 2011 Gronk's the best. All right, Super Bowl predictions. The 13th best player leading the Buffalo Bills. The 14th best player leading the San Francisco 49ers for my Super Bowl matchup. Bills-Niners. 2 of the top defenses in the game, 2 of the top offenses in the game, 2 really complete teams led by running quarterbacks.
Sheesh.
One of the best offensive coaches, if not the best in the game. One of the best, if not the best defensive staffs in the game. This would be a great matchup from a football fan's perspective in terms of just the schematics and the matchups to the game. I think this year, for as fun as the Niners story is, I think there's going to be one team that has such a strong secondary.
Don't put me through this, dude. Don't say we're going to lose the Super Bowl.
They are going to face the strongest of tests in the secondary here. The Bills' pass rush has gotten better. I think this is the best defense in football. I think it's going to be hard for the Niners to score a lot of points here. And I think I look at the other side of the ball. Josh Allen, with the quarterback run game not being as much of a factor in this game as it was last week, but it would actually be the passing game here. I still think the Niners, with the weaker safety core, can get beat deep. I think we're going to see Matt Stafford and Tom Brady have a little bit of success with that. I think the Bills' offensive line is going to hold up enough for him to have some time to hit those, and he's also good enough at extending plays to do so. And I think the Bills, with a great performance from Josh Allen, with ghosts of 2019's past haunting the Niners a little bit here, I think the Bills are going to kind of be down a little early, come back in the game, and I think the Bills, after what happened last year, I felt they'd win the Super Bowl really for a long time, and I feel the same way today. The Buffalo Bills will be the Super Bowl 57 champions, and Josh Allen will be your Super Bowl 57 MVP. They will defeat the San Francisco 49ers in Glendale, Arizona, 28-24.
Wait, the Super Bowl's in Arizona this year?
Yeah, same
Bro, that's
stadium as
just
Super Bowl 49.
oh that stadium's actually had some good matchups in it.
It is.
That's a good stadium. It's just weird that the Arizona has like people don't usually talk about Arizona Stadium, you know. Anyway, Josh
Wait,
Allen is the Super Bowl winner. I don't know how you could put me through three NFC Championship games with 0 Super
so this
Bowls.
would
Kyle
be
Shanahan.
you'd have made 6 NFC Championship games in 12
Uh,
years, yet have had 0 rings to show
that
for it.
would be so
That'd be
awful. I would just be like, I hate everything and everyone everywhere. Uh, I mean, at least
You'd
future would be
essentially be the
good.
90s Utah Jazz at that
The
point.
'90s YouTube guy. Oh my god. Anyway, I have the Ravens versus the Bucks.
What a matchup.
It's interesting because you have like the future in Lamar, right, versus the
The
old
past.
Brady, right, the past, and it's kind of cool in that way. John Harbaugh's obviously historic rivalry with Brady in the playoffs, right? There's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. Calais Campbell, you could even argue with the Jags in 2017. Everyone's got history in this beef. This is a big beef matchup, and I think the Ravens are going to win this. I think the Ravens are going to win. I want Lamar to win this year. I'm rooting for the Ravens. I don't know if you are on Twitter or not, but their Twitter conversations are just great between their team. I don't know why I mentioned that just now, but it's just hilarious,
That's
dude.
why
They
you're
have some.
picking them.
No, but that is not why. That's why I want
No, I
them to
know.
win. That's why I want them to win. But I just think it's going to give them some trouble similar to before, like with Lamar's just what they're going to try to do in this game, I think, is crowd the box and just blitz the hell out of Lamar and get him out of his passing groove because that's how most people would target trying to beat Lamar, right? And especially Todd Bowles being Todd Bowles. But I think he's going to come up clutch here with some crazy scramble drill and just throw some bombs downfield to whoever, Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman. I don't know. Maybe even OBJ. Maybe they get OBJ by the end of the year. Who knows? This is my prediction. I don't
You
really
think
have
the
a great
Ravens
reason
defense holds
other
up?
than I just kind of want Lamar to win in this one because they're both really good rosters and they both match up well
I
against
mean, you
each
could make
other.
an argument both ways.
And yeah, I mean, like, I think this is the Ravens' year. I think maybe the difference is the Bucks going into this year don't have as much fire as the Ravens do. The Ravens, like I've been talking about, are this team that were so close to being
They're
something
being
last
doubted
year,
right now.
just for it to get taken away and for the whole league just to be doubting them right now. Where the Bucks are this like, they're Tom Brady. Everyone knows they're going to be good.
Nothing to
They know
prove.
they're going to be good. There's no fire under them. They're coming in probably like
There's
we're going to
nothing to
win.
prove. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. Where Ravens have
I like
everything
it,
to win.
Lenny. I like the Ravens prediction. I can see it happening this
I
year.
loved your list until you said the Niners are going to beat the Bucks. I was like, no way, bro.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
It's going to happen.
The Niners, don't sleep on it. Trey Lance, Colin Kaepernick, 2012. It's gonna happen. He's gonna make a run to the Super Bowl,
We both,
and he's gonna run into an even more magical quarterback.
Harbaughs are getting a lot of press today, huh? Both of them.
Yeah, except Jim Harbaugh's not the coach of the 49ers anymore.
Not anymore, but we
Kyle
talked about
Shanahan
it.
is going to have another fourth quarter lead, and he's going to blow another one in the Super Bowl.
You know
All
how
right.
sad I would be? I'd probably
On that
reverse
note,
everything.
thank you guys for watching this extremely abhorrently long episode of the Lay Down Podcast and of BL Beaver's Consensus. And make sure to go follow my social medias and Lenny's social medias in the description below. Hope you have a great day, and God bless.